The rain hammered down like Judgment Day as Jack Morrison discovered them, a woman clutching a small boy, both bloodied and trembling beside his garage. Her designer dress hung in tatters, her face swollen with fresh bruises. "Please," she gasped. "They'll kill us." Jack had no idea that sheltering these strangers would expose a billion-dollar secret that powerful men would kill to protect. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's story will shake you to your core, a tale of deception, survival, and unexpected love. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from, so I can see how far our stories travel. The November storm that swept through Millbrook, Texas that night seemed determined to wash the small town off the map entirely. Jack Morrison stood in the doorway of his garage watching sheets of rain pound the cracked asphalt of Elm Street, transforming it into a rushing river. The fluorescent lights above flickered with each rumble of thunder, casting eerie shadows across the oil-stained concrete floor, where he'd spent the last 14 hours trying to resurrect Mrs. Henderson's ancient Buick. His hands were still black with grease, and exhaustion pulled at every muscle in his 34-year-old body. But sleep wouldn't come easy tonight. It never did on storm nights like these. They reminded him too much of the night Sarah died 2 years ago, when the rain had been just as relentless, and the ambulance hadn't made it in time. Jack was about to pull down the garage door when he heard a sound that didn't belong to the storm. It was human, desperate, barely audible above the thunder. He paused, straining to listen. There it was again, a whimper followed by what sounded like a child's cry. "Hello?" Jack called out into the darkness beyond the garage's pool of light. "Someone there?" The wind answered with a howl that sent trash cans clattering down the alley. Jack grabbed the heavy-duty flashlight from his workbench, the one Sarah had bought him 3 Christmases ago, back when she still worried about him working late, and stepped out into the deluge. The rain hit him like ice-cold needles, instantly soaking through his worn flannel shirt. He swept the flashlight beam across the alley beside the garage, illuminating nothing but streaming water and dancing shadows. Then the beam caught something that made his heart stop. Huddled against the side wall of his garage, barely protected by the shallow roof overhang, were 2 figures. A woman, maybe 30, held a boy who couldn't have been more than 7. Both were drenched, shivering violently, and Jack's flashlight trembled as he took in the details covered in blood. The woman's left eye was swollen shut, purple-black in the harsh light. Her lip was split, still bleeding. The expensive-looking dress she wore, silk or something similar, was torn at the shoulder and stained with mud and crimson. The boy clung to her with the desperation of someone who'd seen too much, his small face buried in her neck, his thin shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Jesus Christ!" Jack breathed immediately, dropping to his knees beside them, heedless of the puddles soaking through his jeans. "What happened?" We need to get you to a hospital." The woman's good eye, startlingly green even in her battered state, widened with terror. "No," she gasped, her voice hoarse and accented with something vaguely Eastern European. "No hospitals, please, they'll find us." "Who'll find you?" Jack asked, but the woman was already trying to stand, pulling the boy up with her. She swayed dangerously, and Jack caught her arm to steady her. She flinched at his touch, but didn't pull away. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We shouldn't have stopped. We'll go." "Like hell you will." The protective instinct that kicked in surprised Jack with its intensity. Maybe it was the boy, so small, so scared, reminding him painfully of his own daughter Emma, asleep in the house just 50 yards away. Or maybe it was the woman's eyes holding a kind of refined dignity despite the bruises and fear. "You're hurt, both of you, and this storm you won't make it 10 feet. The woman looked at him, then really looked at him, as if trying to read his soul through the rain streaming down both their faces. Whatever she saw there made her shoulders sag, with either relief or defeat. "Just for tonight," she said quietly. "We'll be gone by morning." Jack stood gently helping her to her feet. The boy Sam, she called him, wouldn't let go of his mother's hand, his eyes wide and watchful, beneath wet, dark hair that probably cost more to cut than Jack made in a week. Everything about them screamed money, from the woman's ruined designer dress to the boy's sodden leather shoes. Yet here they were, beaten and terrified, hiding in his alley like fugitives. "Can you walk?" Jack asked. The woman nodded, though her legs shook with each step. He led them through the garage's side door, the sudden absence of rain almost disorienting in its silence. Under the garage's harsh fluorescent lights, they looked even worse. The woman's injuries were extensive bruises on her arms, in the distinctive pattern of grabbing fingers, a cut along her hairline that had bled into her honey blonde hair, turning it pink. The boy seemed physically unharmed, but traumatized, his eyes holding that 1,000-yard stare Jack had seen in veterans at the VA hospital where Sarah used to work. "Sit," Jack said, guiding them to the battered couch in the garage's makeshift break area. He grabbed the first aid kit from the wall and a stack of relatively clean shop towels. "I'm Jack, by the way. Jack Morrison." The woman hesitated, then said, "Elena, this is my son Sam." Jack knew immediately those weren't their real names. The hesitation, the way she glanced at the boy, as if confirming their story, it was all wrong. But looking at her shaking hands and his terrified eyes, Jack decided real names didn't matter right now. "Okay, Elena," he said gently, kneeling in front of them with the first aid kit. "I'm going to clean these cuts. It might sting a little." He looked at Sam. "You're being very brave, buddy. Your mom's lucky to have such a strong protector." Sam's eyes flickered with something, surprise maybe, or a flicker of pride pushing through the fear. He pressed closer to his mother, who winced as Jack began dabbing antiseptic on her split lip. "This is deep," Jack said, examining the cut on her hairline. "You really should have stitches." "No doctors," Elena repeated firmly. "Please, we need to rest, to think." Jack wanted to argue, but something in her tone, educated, refined, despite the circumstances, made him pause. This wasn't some domestic dispute from the trailer park on the edge of town. This was something else, something that had driven an obviously wealthy woman and her son to hide in an alley in small-town Texas during a storm. "All right," he said finally. "But you're not staying in the garage. I've got a house across the lot. Spare room. You and Sam can clean up, get some proper rest." Elena's good eye welled with tears. "Why would you? You don't know us." Jack paused in his ministrations, meeting her gaze. "No, I don't. But I know what it's like to be scared and alone. And I know that whatever happened to you, that boy doesn't deserve to spend tonight cold and afraid in an alley." The tears spilled over then, and Elena quickly wiped them away, wincing as she touched her swollen eye. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack helped them across the dark lot to his house, a modest 2-story that had seen better days. The porch light was on. He always left it on for Emma, in case she needed to find her way home in the dark, even though she was only 8 and supposedly safe in her bed. Inside, the house smelled of the spaghetti he'd made for dinner and the faint vanilla scent of the candle Emma insisted on lighting every evening, just like Mommy used to. The living room was cluttered, but clean toys mixed with car magazines, a child's drawings stuck to every available surface. Elena stood in the doorway, dripping on the worn hardwood, looking around with an expression Jack couldn't quite read. Sam hadn't let go of her hand. "Bathroom's down the hall," Jack said, suddenly self-conscious about his humble home. "I'll find you some dry clothes. They'll be too big, but..." "It's perfect," Elena interrupted softly. "It's warm." The way she said it like warmth was something she'd forgotten existed, made Jack's chest tighten. He showed them to the bathroom, pulled out some of Sarah's old clothes from the back of the closet, things he hadn't been able to bring himself to donate yet, and found some of Emma's outgrown clothes that might fit Sam. When he knocked on the bathroom door to leave the clothes, he heard Elena crying softly, trying to muffle the sound, probably for Sam's sake. 20 minutes later, they emerged, transformed. Elena wore Sarah's old University of Texas sweatshirt and a pair of jeans that were too long and too loose. Her face was clean now, the bruises standing out starkly against pale skin that looked like it had never seen a day of hard work. Sam wore Emma's old Batman pajamas, looking younger than his probable 7 years. "The guest room's upstairs," Jack said, leading them up the creaking stairs. He pushed open the door to reveal a simple room with a double bed, a dresser, and faded floral wallpaper that Sarah had always meant to replace. "It's not much. It's safe," Elena said, and the gratitude in her voice was almost painful to hear. "That's everything." Jack showed them where extra blankets were pointed out the bathroom across the hall and was about to leave when Sam finally spoke for the first time. "Sir." His voice was small, cultured in a way that matched his mother's. "Are the bad men going to find us here?" Jack knelt down to the boy's level, his heart breaking at the question. "Nobody. No bad men are getting in this house, I promise." Sam studied him with eyes that were the same striking green as his mother's. "You promise?" "I promise," Jack repeated, meaning it more than he'd meant anything in a long time. After settling them in, Jack went back downstairs and sat in his kitchen nursing a beer and trying to make sense of the evening. Outside, the storm continued its assault on Millbrook, but inside his small house, 2 strangers slept under his protection. He should probably be worried they were clearly running from something or someone dangerous. But all he could think about was the boy's question and his own promise. At around 3 in the morning, Jack was dozing in the living room recliner. He'd decided to stay downstairs in case anyone came looking for his guests when he heard footsteps on the stairs. Elena appeared, still wearing Sarah's sweatshirt, her feet bare on the cold floor. "Couldn't sleep?" Jack asked quietly. She shook her head, wrapping her arms around herself. "I keep thinking I'll wake up and this will all have been a dream, or a nightmare. I'm not sure which anymore." "Want some coffee or tea?" Sarah always... Jack caught himself. "I've got both." "Tea would be lovely," Elena said, following him into the kitchen. She moved carefully, favoring her left side, probably bruised ribs, Jack thought. As he put the kettle on, Elena sat at the small kitchen table, running her fingers over the grooves in the wood, where Emma had practiced writing her letters with a little too much enthusiasm. "Your daughter?" Elena asked, noticing the drawings on the refrigerator. "Emma. She's 8. Jack pulled down 2 mugs. "Lost her mom 2 years ago. Car accident." "I'm sorry," Elena said, and something in her tone suggested she understood loss intimately. "What about Sam's father?" Jack asked carefully. Elena's hand went unconsciously to a pale line on her ring finger, where a wedding band had recently been. "Gone. 3 months ago. Heart attack, they said." The way she said, "they said," raised every red flag in Jack's mind. The kettle whistled, and Jack poured the water, the mundane domesticity of the moment, at odds with the mystery sitting at his kitchen table. "You don't have to tell me anything," Jack said, setting a mug in front of her. "But if someone's looking for you, if you're in danger..." "The less you know, the safer you are," Elena interrupted. "We'll leave tomorrow. Today, I suppose. As soon as the storm passes." "And go where..." Elena's laugh was bitter. "I don't know, away. Somewhere they can't find us." "Who's they?" Elena, or whatever your real name is. She looked up at him sharply, then her shoulders sagged. You know that's not my name. Lucky guess. You hesitated just a beat too long when you said it, and Sam looked at you like he was checking if he should respond to it. Elena sipped her tea, wincing as the hot liquid hit her split lip. You're observant. Comes with being a single dad. You learn to read the small stuff. Jack sat across from her. Look, I'm not asking for your life story, but if there's someone out there who did this to you who's threatening that boy, you can't help, Elena said firmly. These aren't the kind of people you call the police on. These are the kind of people who own the police. The way she said it, matter-of-fact and resigned, sent a chill down Jack's spine. What had he gotten himself into? Then stay, he heard himself say. At least for a few days. Until you figure out where to go, make a plan. Running blind in a storm, literal or otherwise, that's how people get hurt. Elena studied him over her mug. Why would you do that? You don't know us. We could be anyone. We could be dangerous. Jack almost laughed. Lady, you weigh maybe 120 pounds soaking wet, which you were. Your son's afraid of his own shadow. The only danger here is to you. You'd be surprised, Elena said quietly. But there was something in her eyes, a hardness, a determination, that made Jack believe her. This woman might look like a victim now, but she was a survivor. My offer stands, Jack said. Emma would probably love having a kid around anyway. She's been lonely since... He stopped, not wanting to finish that sentence. Since her mother died, Elena finished gently. I understand loneliness. They sat in silence for a moment, the storm rattling the windows, two strangers bound by loss and circumstance. One more day, Elena finally said. Just until I can make some calls, figure out our next move. Fair enough. Jack stood rinsing his mug in the sink. Get some rest. You look like you haven't slept in days. Weeks, Elena corrected, then seemed surprised she'd admitted it. As she headed back upstairs, Jack called after her. Elena, whatever you're running from, whoever did this to you, they'd have to go through me to get to you and Sam. And I'm a lot tougher than I look. She paused on the stairs, looking back at him with those haunting green eyes. I believe you, she said softly. That's what scares me. The next morning brought chaos in the form of Emma Morrison, who bounded down the stairs at her usual breakneck pace and froze at the sight of a strange boy eating cereal at her kitchen table. Daddy, she called, her voice uncertain. Who's that? Jack, who'd been making pancakes Saturday, tradition storm or no storm, turned from the stove. Emma, sweetie, this is Sam and his mom, Elena. They're going to be staying with us for a couple of days. Emma, never one to be shy for long, marched over to Sam and studied him critically. How old are you? 7. Sam answered quietly, not meeting her eyes. I'm 8, Emma announced proudly. That makes me the boss. Emma, Jack warned, but Elena laughed, the first genuine sound of joy he'd heard from her. I think that's fair, Elena said, entering the kitchen. She'd brushed her hair forward to hide the worst of the bruising, but in the morning light, Jack could see the full extent of her injuries. Emma thankfully seemed more interested in Sam than in questioning Elena's appearance. Do you like pancakes? Emma asked Sam. Daddy makes the best pancakes in Texas. He puts chocolate chips in them even though he says it's bad for our teeth. Special occasions only, Jack protested, but he was already reaching for the chocolate chips. Sam looked at his mother uncertainly, and she nodded encouragement. I like chocolate, he admitted quietly. Then you can sit next to me, Emma declared, as if this settled everything. Do you watch Paw Patrol? What about Pokemon? Do you have any toys with you? As Emma peppered Sam with questions, slowly drawing him out of his shell. Jack caught Elena watching them with a mixture of sadness and yearning. She's wonderful, Elena said quietly, moving to stand beside Jack at the stove. So confident. She gets that from her mother, Jack said, flipping a pancake. Sarah was something else. Nurse at the VA hospital never met a problem she couldn't solve or a person she couldn't help. She sounds amazing. She was. Jack plated the pancakes, arranging them carefully. Emma's a lot like her. Too much sometimes. The helping people thing, it can get you in trouble. Elena touched his arm gently. Or it can save someone's life. The morning passed in a blur of domestic normalcy that felt surreal given the circumstances. Emma had decided Sam was her new best friend and dragged him off to show him her extensive collection of toys. Jack could hear them upstairs, Emma's constant chatter, punctuated by Sam's occasional quiet responses. Elena insisted on helping clean up, moving around the kitchen, with a grace that seemed at odds with doing dishes. "You've never done this before, have you?" Jack asked, watching her examine the dishwasher like it was some foreign artifact. She flushed. "Is it that obvious? You're holding that plate like it might explode." He took it from her, gently demonstrating. "Here, like this." As he showed her how to load the dishwasher, something so mundane he'd never thought about teaching anyone, she said, "I grew up with staff, housekeepers, cooks, drivers. I never learned normal things." "Must be nice," Jack said without thinking, then immediately regretted it, seeing her expression. "It was a prison," she said quietly, "just with nicer bars." Before Jack could respond, his phone rang. It was Miguel from the garage. "Jack, where the hell are you? Mrs. Henderson's here for her car, and the Johnsons brought in their truck. Said you promised to look at it today." Jack cursed under his breath. In the chaos of the night, he'd completely forgotten about work. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Miguel. Tell Mrs. Henderson there was a storm delay." He hung up and turned to Elena. "I've got to go to the garage for a few hours. Will you and Sam be okay here?" Fear flickered across her face. "We'll come with you." "To the garage, it's not exactly—" "Please," she said, and the desperation in her voice stopped his protest. "I can't. We can't be alone. Not yet." So that's how Jack found himself walking into Morrison's auto repair with an injured socialite, her traumatized son, and his own daughter, who'd appointed herself Sam's official tour guide. Miguel's eyes widened at the entourage, but Jack gave him a look that said, "Don't ask," and his friend wisely kept his questions to himself. The garage was busy for a Saturday, 3 cars in various states of repair, and a 4th pulling in as they arrived. Elena and the kids settled in the break area, Emma showing Sam her collection of toy cars that Jack kept there for her visits. As Jack worked, he found himself hyper-aware of Elena's presence. She sat on the worn couch, watching everything with those intelligent green eyes, occasionally wincing when she moved wrong. Sam had gradually relaxed under Emma's relentless friendliness, and the two were now racing toy cars across the floor, making engine noises. Around noon, the normalcy shattered. A black Lincoln Navigator with tinted windows pulled up outside the garage, its engine purring with expensive horsepower. Every instinct Jack had developed growing up on the rough side of Houston started screaming. Elena went rigid, the color draining from her face. She grabbed Sam, pulling him against her, her eyes fixed on the vehicle. "Take them to the office," Jack said quietly to Miguel, who read the situation immediately and ushered Elena and the kids into the small back office, shutting the door. 2 men got out of the Navigator. They wore expensive suits that didn't quite hide the bulge of shoulder holsters, and their eyes swept the garage with professional assessment. Help you, gentlemen? Jack asked, wiping his hands on a rag, keeping his tone neutral. We're looking for someone, the taller one said. His accent was subtle, but there, East Coast, maybe Boston. A woman and a boy. She might be injured. Someone might have seen them in the storm last night. That's pretty vague, Jack said. This is Texas. Lots of women and kids around. The shorter one pulled out a phone, showed Jack a photo. It was Elena, though in the picture, she looked like a different person. Perfectly styled hair, designer, dress, diamonds at her throat. The boy beside her was Sam, wearing what looked like a tiny tuxedo. Evelyn Hamilton, the tall one said. That's her son, Samuel. They've been missing for 3 days. The family's very worried. Hamilton. Jack kept his expression carefully blank even as the name registered. Hamilton Oil, one of the biggest energy companies in the country. He'd filled up at their gas stations 1,000 times. Haven't seen them, Jack said. But if they've been missing 3 days, shouldn't the police? The family prefers to handle this privately, the short one interrupted. His smile was cold. Mrs. Hamilton has been through a trauma. She's not thinking clearly. She needs help. Medical help? Jack asked innocently. The two men exchanged glances. Something like that, the tall one said. He pulled out a business card. If you see anything, call this number. The family's offering a substantial reward. $50,000. Jack took the card, whistled low. That's a lot of money. The Hamiltons value family above all else, the short one said, and something in his tone made it sound like a threat. After they left, Jack waited a full 5 minutes, watching to make sure the navigator was really gone before letting Elena and the kids out of the office. Elena was shaking. They found us. How did they find us so fast? They're canvassing, Jack said. They don't know you're here specifically. But Elena. Evelyn Hamilton Oil. What the hell have you gotten yourself into? She sank onto the couch, pulling Sam close. Emma, picking up on the tension, moved closer to her father. My husband was Christopher Hamilton, Elena Evelyn said quietly. Montgomery Hamilton's son. Jack felt his stomach drop. Montgomery Hamilton was Texas royalty oil money going back 3 generations, the kind of man who had senators on speed dial. Chris died 3 months ago, Evelyn continued. Heart attack at 35. Very sudden, very convenient. You think he was murdered? I know he was, she said flatly. Chris had been fighting his father for years, wanting to take the company in a different direction. Clean energy sustainability. Montgomery saw it as betrayal. Then Chris died, and suddenly I'm the grieving widow who needs help managing her late husband's estate, who needs protection from the world, who needs to sign papers giving Montgomery control of everything. So you ran. I ran. She looked at Sam, who was listening with wide eyes. We ran. But you can't run from the Hamiltons. They own half of Texas. Jack processed this, his mind racing. Those weren't cops who came looking for you. Private security, ex-military, most of them, thug. Montgomery has a small army on payroll. Evelyn laughed bitterly. I should have known better, should have gone farther. But I don't know how to disappear. I don't even know how to use a dishwasher. Daddy, Emma piped up. Are those bad men? Jack pulled her onto his lap. They're just confused, sweet pea. Looking for something they lost. But Ms. Elena isn't lost, Emma said with 8-year-old logic. She's right here. Exactly, Jack said, making a decision that would change everything. And that's where she's staying. Evelyn looked at him with those green eyes now bright with tears. You don't understand what you're risking. Montgomery Hamilton isn't someone you cross. He could destroy your business, your life, everything. Maybe, Jack said, thinking of Sarah, of the promises she'd made him make about always helping those who needed it. But I made a promise to Sam last night. No bad men are getting in my house. I meant it. Miguel, who'd been listening from the doorway, spoke up. Boss, you know I got your back, but this is some next-level shit. I know, Jack said. I'm not asking you to get involved. Like hell, Miguel said. You think I'm letting you face down oil executives alone? Besides, he grinned. I never liked Hamilton gas stations anyway. Overpriced as hell. That afternoon, while the kids played and Miguel kept watch, Jack and Evelyn sat in the office trying to figure out their next move. You need a lawyer, Jack said. Montgomery owns most of the law firms in Texas, Evelyn replied. The ones he doesn't own, he can buy. What about federal FBI? With what proof Chris's death was ruled natural? The bruises I fell down the stairs. That's the official story. Montgomery's security team will swear to it. Jack studied her face, the fading bruises taking on new meaning. His security did this. When I refused to sign the papers. When I said I was taking Sam and leaving. Her hand went unconsciously to her ribs. They were very careful. Nothing that would show at a board meeting. The rage that filled Jack was sudden and volcanic. He'd felt nothing like it since the night Sarah died, when the drunk driver who'd hit her had walked away without a scratch. We need to get you somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere Montgomery can't reach. There is nowhere, Evelyn said despairingly. He has connections everywhere. Judges, politicians, police. The Hamilton name opens every door and closes just as many. Then we make our own door, Jack said. Look, I may just be a mechanic, but I know this town. I know people. Montgomery Hamilton's never heard of people who don't give a damn about oil money. We can keep you hidden until we figure out a better plan. Why? Evelyn asked the question she'd been asking since the night before. Why would you do this for strangers? Jack thought about it, really thought about it. Because my wife would have. Because it's right. Because that boy out there deserves better than being a pawn in some rich asshole's game. Take your pick. Before Evelyn could respond, Emma burst into the office. Daddy Sam doesn't know how to ride a bike. Can I teach him? Jack looked at Evelyn, who seemed stunned by the concept. He never learned, she admitted. We always had drivers, and then Chris died. And then that changes today, Jack said firmly. Every kid should know how to ride a bike. Emma, get the spare from the garage. The blue one. As the kids ran off excitedly, Evelyn watched them go with wonder. Is this what normal feels like? Pretty much, Jack said. Messy, chaotic, and absolutely worth it. That evening, as Jack watched Emma teach Sam to ride a bike in the empty lot behind the garage, the boy wobbling but determined, Emma running alongside, shouting encouragement, he noticed Evelyn standing beside him, tears streaming down her face. He's laughing, she whispered. I haven't heard him laugh in 3 months. Kids are resilient, Jack said. Stronger than we give them credit for. I forgot, she said. In that world, that golden cage, I forgot what it was like to just be. To let Sam be a child instead of an heir. As the sun set over Millbrook, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, Jack made a decision that would have seemed insane just 24 hours ago. Stay, he said. Not just for a few days. Stay until you're ready to leave. Until you have a real plan. Evelyn turned to him, backlit by the dying light, looking nothing like the billionaire's widow she was supposed to be. That could be weeks, months even. So, people will talk. Let them. Montgomery will keep looking. Then we'll keep hiding you. She studied his face, searching for something. You don't even know me, not really. I know enough, Jack said. I know you love your son enough to run from everything you've ever known. I know you're stronger than you think. I know you're trying to do right in a world that's all wrong. That's enough for now. Sam fell off the bike just then, and both Jack and Evelyn started forward, but Emma was already there helping him up, dusting him off, telling him he was doing great, and that everyone falls at first. She's going to be an amazing woman, Evelyn said softly. She already is, Jack replied, watching his daughter demonstrate the proper way to get back on a bike after a fall. Just like her mother. That night, after the kids were asleep, Emma had insisted Sam take the bottom bunk in her room so they could have a sleepover. Jack found Evelyn on his front porch, wrapped in one of Sarah's old quilts, staring at the stars. Can't sleep again, he asked, settling into the rocking chair beside her. I keep waiting for them to come, she admitted. Every car that passes, every sound, I think it's them. That's no way to live. It's the only way I know now. She pulled the quilt tighter. You know what's funny? I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and I've never felt poorer. Money's just paper, Jack said. The real stuff, family, friends, safety, that's what counts. Very philosophical for a mechanic. We have our moments. He paused, then asked, What was he like, Chris? Evelyn's face softened. Brilliant. Idealistic. He wanted to change the world, make it better for Sam. He saw the writing on the wall with fossil fuels, wanted to transition Hamilton Oil into Hamilton Energy, focus on renewables. His father called him a traitor to the family legacy. Sounds like he was trying to build a better legacy. That's what I told him. She was quiet for a moment. The night he died, we'd had dinner with Montgomery. Another fight about the company's direction. Chris was so angry when we left. Then 3 hours later, he was dead. Massive heart attack, they said. No warning signs. But you don't believe it. Chris ran marathons. He had the heart of a 20-year-old. His last physical was perfect. She turned to Jack. 2 days after the funeral, Montgomery presented me with papers. Sign over control of Chris's shares, let him raise Sam, and I'd be taken care of. When I refused, the bruises, she nodded. A fall down the stairs, they told the staff. Grief making me clumsy. Then they suggested I needed psychiatric help, that I was a danger to Sam. That's when I knew we had to run. Smart call. Was it I have no plan, no allies, nowhere to go? I've dragged my son into poverty and danger because I was too proud to give Montgomery what he wanted. Jack turned to face her fully. You protected your son from people who would use him. That's not pride, that's love. And you're not alone. Not anymore. She looked at him in the dim porch light, this man who'd taken them in without question, who'd faced down Montgomery's men without flinching. You're either the kindest man I've ever met, or the craziest. Bit of both, probably. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the empty street, the quiet town sleeping around them. It was so different from the world Evelyn had known. No cameras, no security, no one watching every move. Just peace, tentative and fragile, but real. I should tell you, Jack said eventually. This town talks. By tomorrow, everyone's going to know I've got a woman and her kid staying with me. Stories are going to spread. What kind of stories? The kind that make church ladies clutch their pearls and gossip over coffee. He grinned. My reputation's about to take a hit. I'm sorry. Don't be. Haven't been interesting enough to gossip about since Sarah died. Might be nice to shake things up. Evelyn laughed, soft and genuine. You really aren't like anyone I've ever met. That a good thing or a bad thing? I haven't decided yet. A car turned onto their street and Evelyn tensed. Jack put a calming hand on her arm. That's just Tom Bradley. Comes home late from his shift at the plant. See, he's pulling into his driveway 3 houses down. She relaxed incrementally. How do you know everyone? Small town. You learn the patterns, the people. Mrs. Chen walks her poodle at 6 a.m. sharp. The Johnson twins sneak out to smoke behind the 7-Eleven every Friday night thinking their parents don't know. Betty Mason checks her mail exactly 3 times, even though mail only comes once. He pointed to various houses. That's the rhythm here. Anything breaks it, we notice. So you'll know if they come. I'll know. He stood offering her his hand. Come on. You need sleep, even if it's just a few hours. She took his hand, letting him pull her up. For a moment they stood close, her hand still in his, and something passed between them, not quite attraction, not yet, but possibility. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything. Stop thanking me, Jack replied. We're just people helping people. That's what we do here. As they went inside, neither noticed the car parked at the end of the street, its occupant taking photos, documenting the elegant woman in borrowed clothes standing too close to the small-town mechanic. The next morning brought what Jack had expected, curiosity. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, just happened to need her oil changed urgently. 3 neighbors suddenly discovered car problems that required immediate attention. Even Pastor Williams stopped by, mentioning he'd heard Jack had house guests. Jack handled it all with practiced ease, introducing Evelyn as Elena, an old friend of Sarah's from nursing school, who'd needed a place to stay after a difficult divorce. The story was thin, but paired with Evelyn's obvious injuries, it earned more sympathy than suspicion. Sam and Emma had become inseparable, the boy following her around like a shadow. She'd appointed herself his protector and guide to all things normal, teaching him playground games, introducing him to Saturday morning cartoons, showing him how to make a proper peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He doesn't know anything, Emma told Jack seriously. He doesn't even know how to play tag right. Rich people are weird, Daddy. If only she knew how right she was. Evelyn tried to help around the house, though her domestic skills were laughably limited. She burned toast, couldn't figure out the washing machine, and looked at the vacuum cleaner like it was some complex medical equipment. But she tried with a determination that Jack found oddly endearing. You don't have to do this, he told her, finding her wrestling with the fitted sheet, trying to make the guest bed. I want to contribute, she said, red-faced with effort. I can't just be a burden. You're not? He stopped watching her fight with the sheet. Here, corner to corner, then tuck under. He showed her their hands touching as they worked together. She smelled like Sarah's shampoo, which should have been painful, but somehow wasn't. I feel like a child, she admitted. 32 years old, and I'm learning to make a bed. Everyone starts somewhere, Jack said. When Sarah died, I couldn't cook anything but cereal. Emma survived on takeout and frozen dinners for months before I figured out the basics. You learned for her, just like you're learning for Sam. She looked at him across the freshly made bed. Is that what I'm doing? Isn't it? Before she could answer, Jack's phone rang. It was Miguel. Boss, we got company. Same navigator from yesterday, plus a Mercedes. They're asking questions. Jack's jaw tightened. Keep them busy. I'm on my way. He turned to Evelyn. They're back. Stay here with the kids, lock the doors, don't answer for anyone. Fear flickered in her eyes, but she nodded. Be careful. When Jack arrived at the garage, he found not just the security team, but Montgomery Hamilton himself. The patriarch of Hamilton Oil was everything Jack had expected, tall, silver-haired, with the kind of presence that came from never being told no. His suit probably cost more than Jack made in 6 months, and his eyes were cold as winter steel. "Mr. Morrison," Montgomery said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "I understand you met my associates yesterday." "I did," Jack said evenly. "Told them I hadn't seen your daughter-in-law." "Yes, they mentioned that." Montgomery studied him like a specimen. "You know, Mr. Morrison, I built my empire on being able to read people, and right now you're lying to me." Jack crossed his arms. "That's a serious accusation." "It's not an accusation, it's a fact." Montgomery pulled out a tablet, showed Jack a photo Evelyn on his porch last night. Grainy, but unmistakable. "My daughter-in-law is troubled, Mr. Morrison. She needs help. Professional help." "Looks to me like she needs protection," Jack said, abandoning pretense. "Those bruises didn't come from falling down any stairs." Montgomery's expression didn't change. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know what a woman who's been knocked around looks like. And I know what a scared kid looks like. Whatever game you're playing, leave them out of it." "Game." Montgomery stepped closer, and despite being 20 years older, he radiated menace. "Mr. Morrison, you're interfering in family business. That's dangerous for a man in your position. Single father struggling business mortgage payments. Life can become very difficult very quickly." "Is that a threat?" "It's reality." Montgomery smiled coldly. "I could buy this garage tomorrow. I could have you investigated for child endangerment housing a mentally unstable woman around your daughter. I could make sure you never work in Texas again, or—" He paused. "You could tell me where she is, accept a generous finder's fee, and go back to your quiet little life." Jack felt his hands clench into fists. "Get out of my garage." Montgomery's eyes flashed. "You're making a mistake." "Wouldn't be my first." Jack stepped aside, gesturing to the door. "Now get out. Before I call the real cops, tell them about those bruises and let them sort out your family business." For a moment, the two men stared at each other, oil money versus oil-stained hands, power versus principle. Finally, Montgomery turned to leave, pausing at the door. "She killed him, you know. My son. Drove him to a heart attack with her constant nagging about the business, about changing everything. Now she's poisoning my grandson against me. Is that really who you want to protect?" After he left, Miguel whistled low. "Boss, you just told one of the richest men in Texas to fuck off." "Yeah," Jack said, his mind racing. "And he's going to make us pay for it." The retaliation came faster than expected. By that afternoon, 3 major clients had canceled their service contracts. The parts supplier called to say Jack's credit line had been frozen. A city inspector showed up suddenly, finding code violations that had never existed before. Jack sat in his office, staring at the numbers, trying to figure out how to keep the business afloat, when Evelyn appeared in the doorway. "This is my fault," she said quietly. "This is Montgomery being Montgomery," Jack corrected. "Don't blame yourself for his choices." "I should leave. Take Sam and go." "Go where you said it yourself he'll find you." Jack turned to face her. "At least here you've got backup. Backup that's losing everything because of me." "I'm not losing everything," Jack said firmly. "I'm losing some things. There's a difference." She moved into the office, sitting across from him. "Why are you so calm about this?" "Because I've lost everything before. When Sarah died, I thought my world was ending. But Emma needed me, so I kept going. The garage nearly went under, but Miguel and the guys stuck by me. I learned something: the stuff that really matters can't be taken away by men like Montgomery Hamilton. You're either very wise or very naive. Probably both." He leaned back in his chair. Look, I knew what I was getting into when I told him off, and I'd do it again. Why? Jack met her eyes. Because some things are worth fighting for. Sam's safety, your freedom, basic human decency. Take your pick. Before Evelyn could respond, Emma and Sam burst in, both covered in dirt and grinning. We built a fort, Emma announced. It's the best fort ever, and no bad guys can get in. It has a moat, Sam added shyly. Emma said every good fort needs a moat. Jack laughed, the tension breaking. A moat, huh? How'd you manage that? Garden hose, Emma said proudly. Mrs. Chen is going to be mad about her flower bed, but it was worth it. As Jack listened to the kids excitedly describe their fort, he caught Evelyn watching them with that same wondering expression. When she noticed his gaze, she mouthed, "Thank you." He just nodded. Whatever came next, whatever Montgomery Hamilton threw at them, it would be worth it for moments like this, two kids being kids building forts against imaginary bad guys, not knowing the real ones were already at the gates. The next 3 days passed in a strange bubble of domestic tension. Montgomery's pressure on the garage intensified. 2 more suppliers cut them off, and someone had spray-painted "Mind your business" across the garage door in the middle of the night. But inside Jack's small house, something else was happening. Something that felt dangerously like a family forming. Evelyn had taken over the garage's books, discovering she had a talent for numbers that years of charity board meetings had never revealed. She found errors in Miguel's accounting that had been costing them hundreds each month, negotiated with suppliers who hadn't yet been reached by Montgomery's influence, and somehow managed to keep them afloat despite the pressure. "You're wasted as a trophy wife," Jack told her one evening, watching her work through spreadsheets at his kitchen table, reading glasses perched on her nose. She'd bought them at the dollar store, marveling at the price. "I was never supposed to be anything else," she replied, not looking up from the numbers. Montgomery made sure of that. "Chris tried to involve me in the business, but his father always shut it down. Said numbers were men's work." "His loss," Jack said, setting a cup of coffee beside her. She'd finally mastered the coffee maker, though the more complex appliances still defeated her. She looked up at him, then those green eyes warm in the kitchen light. "I haven't felt useful in years. Thank you for that. You're saving my business. I should be thanking you." "We're even then," she said, returning to her work, but there was a small smile on her lips. Sam had started talking more, especially to Emma, who'd decided he needed educating in all the important things, comic books, cartoons, the proper way to eat Oreos. Jack found them that evening in Emma's room, Sam reading aloud from a Batman comic, while Emma corrected his pronunciation. "It's the Joker," Emma was saying. "You have to say it scary like this, the Joker." Sam tried again, making his voice dramatic. "The Joker." "Better," Emma approved. "You're getting good at this." The boy beamed at the praise, and Jack felt his heart constrict. According to Evelyn, Sam had been in private tutoring since he was 3, learning languages and etiquette, and all the things a Hamilton heir needed to know. But he'd never learned to read comic books with a friend. That night, after the kids were asleep, Jack found Evelyn on the porch again. It had become their routine, these late-night conversations under the Texas stars. "He smiled today," she said without preamble. Really smiled, not the polite society smile he learned for photographs. He smiled because Emma taught him to burp the alphabet. "A crucial life skill," Jack said, settling beside her. "Montgomery would be horrified." "Good." She laughed, soft and genuine. "Sometimes I forget who I'm supposed to be. Today, Mrs. Patterson called me Elena, and for a moment I didn't know who she meant. Evelyn Hamilton feels like someone else, someone I used to know." Maybe that's not a bad thing. She turned to him, studying his face in the dim light. What about you? Who are you when you forget who you're supposed to be? Jack considered the question. Just a dad trying to do right by his kid. A guy who fixes things. Nothing special. You're wrong, Evelyn said quietly. You're the most special person I've ever met. The moment stretched between them, fragile and charged, until headlights swept across the street. Both tensed, but it was just Tom Bradley again, returning from his shift. We can't keep living like this, Evelyn said, jumping at every car waiting for Montgomery to make his next move. Then we stop waiting, Jack said, an idea forming. We go on offense. How he has all the power, all the money. He has secrets, too. Men like Montgomery Hamilton always do. We just need to find them. The next morning, Jack called in a favor from an old friend, Danny Reeves, a private investigator who'd never met a corporate secret he couldn't uncover. They met at a diner 2 towns over, Evelyn, insisting on coming despite Jack's protests. Danny was exactly what you'd expect: rumpled suit, 3-day stubble eyes that missed nothing. He looked Evelyn up and down, taking in the faded jeans and Texas Rangers t-shirt she'd borrowed from Jack. Evelyn Hamilton, he said. You look different from your society page photos. That was the idea, she replied coolly. Danny's good people, Jack assured her. We went to high school together. He's helped me out before. The custody thing with Emma. Danny nodded. Sarah's parents got grabby after the accident. We shut that down quick. He turned to Evelyn. So you want dirt on Montgomery Hamilton? That's a dangerous game. I don't want to play games, Evelyn said. I want to protect my son. Danny pulled out a notebook. Tell me about Chris's death. For the next hour, Evelyn laid out everything: Chris's fights with his father, the sudden heart attack, Montgomery's immediate move for control. Danny took notes, occasionally asking pointed questions. Chris had a big life insurance policy, I assume. 10 million? Evelyn confirmed. But it went into a trust for Sam. Who controls the trust? Joint control. Montgomery and me. But if something happens to me, Montgomery gets sole control, Danny finished. Interesting. And Chris's shares in Hamilton Oil. Technically in trust for Sam until he's 21. But the voting rights, Evelyn paused. That's what Montgomery wants me to sign over. Full voting rights until Sam comes of age. What percentage are we talking? 35%. Combined with Montgomery's 40%, it would give him total control. The other 25% is scattered among board members and institutional investors. Danny whistled. That's billions of dollars in control. No wonder he's playing hardball. Can you help? Jack asked. Danny leaned back, studying them both. Montgomery Hamilton has more lawyers than God has angels. But every empire has cracks. Give me a week. We might not have a week, Jack said. He's already strangling my business. Then I'll work fast. Danny stood, then paused. You know, Jack, Sarah would be proud of what you're doing. After he left, Evelyn was quiet on the drive back to Millbrook. Regrets? Jack asked. No, she said firmly. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm fighting back instead of just surviving. When they returned to the house, they found chaos. Emma was in tears, Sam was hiding behind the couch, and Miguel's wife Rosa, who'd been watching them, was trying to calm everyone down. What happened? Jack demanded immediately, going to Emma. These men came, Rosa said, her own hands shaking. They said they were from child services. They wanted to take Sam. I told them to go to hell, but they said they'd be back with police. Evelyn went pale, dropping to her knees beside Sam's hiding spot. Baby, it's okay. You're safe. They said I had to go with them, Sam whispered. They said you were sick, that you couldn't take care of me. That's not true, Evelyn said fiercely. I will never let them take you. Jack was already on the phone with his lawyer, a semi-retired bulldog named Frank Martinez, who'd handled Sarah's estate. They can't just take the kid, Frank said after Jack explained. Not without a court order. Can Montgomery get one? Maybe if he's got a judge in his pocket. But it takes time. You've got at least a few days. A few days. It wasn't much, but it was something. That evening, the little family, because that's what they were becoming, whether they admitted it or not, huddled together in the living room. Emma had insisted on building a blanket fort, declaring it a safety zone, where no bad guys could enter. She'd appointed herself Sam's official protector, sitting beside him, with her toy sword ready to fight off anyone who tried to take him. You know, Evelyn said softly to Jack as they watched the kids, I used to have panic rooms in every house. State-of-the-art security systems, bodyguards, everything money could buy. But I've never felt safer than I do in this blanket fort. Emma's fort-building skills are legendary, Jack said, trying to lighten the mood. She once built one that took up the entire living room. I had to sleep in it for a week because she said the Fort King couldn't abandon his castle. Fort King. It's a very important position. Comes with a paper crown and everything. Evelyn laughed, but it was tinged with sadness. Sam's never had anything like this. Playdates were arranged, supervised, structured. Every moment planned, every interaction monitored. That's no way for a kid to live. It's no way for anyone to live. She turned to him. I've been thinking about what you said. About going on offense. I want to call a press conference. Jack blinked. That's bold. Montgomery controls the narrative right now. Poor grieving father trying to save his grandson from an unstable mother. But what if I told my side? What if I showed these bruises to the world? He'd destroy you. His PR team would spin it. Maybe. Or maybe there are cracks in his armor. Danny's looking for legal ones, but public opinion. That's harder to control. Before Jack could respond, his phone rang. It was Danny. I need to see you, Danny said without preamble. Now, both of you. I found something. They met at the garage after hours, Danny pulling up in his beat-up Corolla looking like he hadn't slept. Chris didn't die of a heart attack, Danny said, pulling out a folder. At least not a natural one. Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. You have proof. I have questions that need answers. Danny spread out papers on Jack's desk. The autopsy was rushed, performed by a doctor, who retired immediately after and moved to Costa Rica. But before he left, he ordered a toxicology panel that was never included in the final report. Why not? Because it showed traces of potassium chloride in Chris's system. Injectable potassium chloride. It causes heart attacks that look completely natural unless you're specifically looking for it. Jack felt the air leave the room. Murder. Probable murder, Danny corrected. But here's the kicker, the security footage from that night at the Hamilton estate. It's been wiped. But the backup server at the security company still has fragments. He pulled out a grainy printout. This is Montgomery entering Chris's home office at 9 p.m. Chris was found dead at 11:30 p.m. Montgomery claims he left at 9:15, but the fragment shows him still there at 10:45. Evelyn was trembling. He killed his own son. We can't prove it yet, Danny warned, but it's enough to raise questions, enough to make the police take a real look if we can find the right detective. Or enough to make Montgomery desperate, Jack said. If he thinks we're close to proving this, he'll accelerate whatever he's planning, Evelyn finished. We need to move Sam somewhere safe. Where? Jack asked. He's got eyes everywhere. Not everywhere, Danny said. I know a place. My cousin runs a ranch about 3 hours south, completely off the grid. We could hide them there while we build the case. No. Sam's voice came from the doorway. They all turned to find him standing there in his Batman pajamas, Emma beside him. I don't want to run anymore. Sam, Evelyn started, but he cut her off. I heard you talking. Grandfather killed Daddy. His voice was small but steady. Because Daddy wanted to change things. Evelyn looked at Jack helplessly, then knelt beside her son. We think so, baby. We're trying to find out for sure. Then we have to stop him, Sam said, with a clarity that seemed beyond his 7 years. Daddy would want us to stop him. Emma stepped forward, her toy sword still in hand. We'll help. We're a team now. Jack felt his throat tighten. These kids, both broken by loss, standing together against something they shouldn't have to face. All right, he said. We do this together, but we're smart about it. Danny, how long do you need to build a solid case? If I can find that retired doctor, get him to talk. Maybe 3 days, but Montgomery's going to know we're digging. Then we give him something else to focus on, Evelyn said, her voice gaining strength. I'll call the press conference. Tomorrow. While he's dealing with that, Danny can work. That's painting a target on your back, Jack protested. The target's already there. At least this way I'm shooting back. The next morning, Evelyn Hamilton stood on the steps of the Millbrook courthouse looking every inch the billionaire's widow despite wearing clothes from Walmart. She'd learned to do her own makeup from YouTube tutorials, and the results were impressive. She looked polished, but approachable, strong, but vulnerable. The press had descended like vultures at the promise of drama in the Hamilton empire. Jack stood to her left, Danny to her right, trying to look like security rather than a mechanic and a disheveled PI. My name is Evelyn Hamilton, she began, her voice carrying across the crowd. 3 days ago, my father-in-law, Montgomery Hamilton, attempted to kidnap my son using men posing as child protective services. The crowd erupted. Evelyn waited for quiet. For the past 3 months, since my husband's suspicious death, I have been threatened, assaulted, and stalked by Montgomery Hamilton's security team. She turned slightly, allowing the cameras to catch the still visible bruising on her face. These injuries weren't from falling downstairs, as Montgomery's people claim. They were inflicted when I refused to sign over control of my son's inheritance. Mrs. Hamilton, a reporter called out, are you suggesting Montgomery Hamilton killed his own son? Evelyn met the camera directly. I'm saying my healthy 35-year-old husband died of a sudden heart attack hours after opposing his father's business practices. I'm saying the autopsy was rushed and incomplete. I'm saying a grieving widow and her 7-year-old son shouldn't have to flee in the night because they fear for their lives. Where is Sam now? Another reporter asked. Safe, Evelyn said simply. And he'll stay that way. The questions came rapid fire after that. Evelyn fielded them with a grace that reminded Jack she'd been trained for public appearance since childhood, but there was something different now, steel beneath the silk. Then Jack saw him. Montgomery Hamilton himself, stepping out of a black town car, his face a mask of cold fury. The crowd parted as he approached the courthouse steps. This is desperate fiction from a mentally unstable woman, Montgomery announced, his voice carrying authority. My daughter-in-law has been suffering from delusions since my son's death. We've been trying to get her help. The kind of help that leaves bruises, Jack interrupted, stepping forward. I've seen what your help looks like, Mr. Hamilton. Montgomery's eyes fixed on him. The mechanic. You've poisoned her against her family. I gave her a safe place to sleep. That's more than you did. The cameras were eating this up, the billionaire versus the small-town mechanic, David and Goliath in real time. "Evelyn," Montgomery said, ignoring Jack, "think about what you're doing. Think about Sam's future. He deserves better than this circus." "He deserves the truth," Evelyn shot back. "About his father. About you." Something flickered in Montgomery's eyes. Was it fear? "We'll settle this in court," he said coldly. "And when we do, when everyone sees how unfit you are, Sam will come home where he belongs." "Over my dead body," Jack said quietly, but the microphones caught it. Montgomery smiled a predator's smile. "That can be arranged." The threat hung in the air, captured by dozens of cameras. Montgomery seemed to realize his mistake immediately, but it was too late. "Did you just threaten this man on live television?" a reporter asked incredulously. "I simply meant—" Montgomery started, but Evelyn cut him off. "He meant exactly what he said. This is who Montgomery Hamilton really is. This is what my husband stood up against, and what I'm standing against now." She turned back to the cameras. "I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding. Montgomery Hamilton may have billions, but I have something more valuable, the truth. And I'm going to make sure everyone hears it." The press conference ended in chaos, reporters shouting questions as Montgomery retreated to his car. Evelyn held her composure until they were back in Jack's truck, then collapsed against the seat, shaking. "You did amazing," Jack said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "I just declared war on one of the most powerful men in Texas." "You declared independence," Jack corrected. "There's a difference." His phone buzzed. It was Frank Martinez. "Turn on Channel 8 now." Jack found the station on his phone. The breaking news banner read, "Hamilton family drama widow alleges murder abuse." But it was the second banner that made them both gasp. "SEC announces investigation into Hamilton oil financial irregularities." "Danny," Evelyn breathed. "He must have found something else." As if on cue, Danny called. "Did you see the news? Turns out Montgomery's been cooking the books for years, hiding debt, inflating assets. The SEC got an anonymous tip with some very specific documentation." "Anonymous?" Jack asked. "Very anonymous," Danny said cheerfully. "The kind that can't be traced back to any particular disheveled PI. But Montgomery's about to have bigger problems than a custody battle." For the first time since she'd appeared in his garage, Evelyn smiled, really smiled, bright and genuine. "He's going to be too busy saving his company to come after Sam." "Don't celebrate yet," Danny warned. "Cornered animals are dangerous. He's going to hit back hard." He was right. Within hours, Jack's garage was shut down by city inspectors citing a dozen violations. His bank called in a loan he didn't know was callable. Emma's school called to say there had been concerns raised about her home environment. But something had changed in Millbrook. Mrs. Patterson from the school called Jack directly. "That inspector, he's Montgomery's cousin. We all know it. Don't you worry about Emma. She's safe here." Miguel organized the other mechanics. "We'll work out of my cousin's shop until this blows over. Montgomery Hamilton doesn't own all of Texas." Even crusty Tom Bradley from down the street stopped by. "Saw the news. That rich bastard threatening you on TV, not in my neighborhood. You need anything, you ask." The town was choosing sides, and surprisingly, they were choosing Jack's. That evening, as they sat around the dinner table, a meal Evelyn had actually helped cook without burning anything. Emma asked the question they'd all been thinking. "Are we a family now?" The adults exchanged glances. It had been barely 2 weeks since Evelyn and Sam had arrived, but somehow Emma was right. They'd become something. Not a traditional family, not a simple one, but family nonetheless. "We're a bonus family," Jack said, finally borrowing a term Sarah had loved. Sometimes life gives you bonus people. Extra family you didn't expect. I like that, Sam said quietly. Bonus family. Evelyn reached over and took Jack's hand on the table, not caring that the kids could see. Me too. Later, after the kids were in bed, Sam still bunking with Emma, both of them insisting they needed to stick together. Jack and Evelyn stood in the kitchen, cleaning up in companionable silence. Thank you, Evelyn said suddenly, for the bonus family thing, for not making it weird or complicated. It is complicated, Jack said. Your husband died 3 months ago. You're in the middle of a war with his father. I'm still figuring out how to raise Emma alone. This is the definition of complicated. But sometimes the best things are complicated. Sarah used to say that life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Evelyn moved closer to him. I don't know how to dance. Another thing we'll have to teach you. She was close enough now that he could see the gold flecks in her green eyes, could smell the vanilla extract she'd spilled on herself while attempting to bake cookies earlier. Jack, she said softly, His phone rang, shattering the moment. It was Danny, and he was panicked. Get out of the house now. Montgomery's men are coming, and this time they have a court order. Real or fake, I don't know, but they're 10 minutes out. Jack didn't hesitate. Kids, he called, already moving. Adventure time. We're going camping. Emma appeared, rubbing her eyes. Camping now. Right now, Jack said, throwing clothes into a bag. Super secret midnight camping. Get Sam. Evelyn was already packing, her movements efficient, despite the fear in her eyes. They'd rehearsed this, made a plan just in case. Within 5 minutes, they were in Jack's truck, heading for the back roads out of town. In the rearview mirror, Jack saw the convoy of black SUVs turning onto his street. Where are we going? Sam asked, clutching his backpack. To see Danny's cousin, Jack said, keeping his voice light. He has horses. You like horses? I've never met one, Sam admitted. Then it's time you did. As they drove through the darkness, Evelyn's hand found Jack's on the gear shift. He glanced over to find her watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What? He asked. You gave up everything for us. Your home, your business, your life. No, Jack said firmly. I gave up things. You and Sam, Emma, you're not things. You're what matters. In the back seat, Emma had fallen asleep on Sam's shoulder. The boy was still awake, staring out at the stars through the window. Mr. Jack, Sam said quietly, will we ever get to go home? Jack met his eyes in the mirror. We'll make a new home, buddy. A better one. Promise. Promise. As they drove toward an uncertain future, Jack realized he meant it. Home wasn't a place, it was the people in this truck, this strange, complicated bonus family that had somehow formed in the midst of chaos. Montgomery Hamilton might have money and power, but Jack had something more valuable, people worth fighting for, and people willing to fight beside him. The war was far from over, but for the first time Jack thought they might actually win. The ranch appeared out of the darkness like something from another century, sprawling under the vast Texas sky with its weathered wood fences and the soft glow of a porch light that seemed to promise safety. Danny's cousin Roberto was already waiting for them, a stocky man in his 50s with kind eyes and hands that spoke of a lifetime of honest work. Danny called. Roberto said simply, helping them unload. You stay as long as you need. Montgomery Hamilton's money doesn't reach out here. The kids were half asleep, stumbling toward the house, but Sam stopped at the sound of horses nickering in the nearby stable. His eyes widened with wonder, the fear of the past hours momentarily forgotten. Can I see them? He asked hopefully. Tomorrow, mijo, Roberto promised. They'll be here waiting for you. Inside the ranch house was warm and lived in with worn leather furniture and walls covered in family photos spanning generations. Roberto's wife Maria had set out blankets and pillows, creating makeshift beds with practiced efficiency. "You look exhausted," she told Evelyn, maternal instinct overriding the fact they were strangers. "When did you last eat a proper meal?" "I honestly don't remember," Evelyn admitted. Within minutes, Maria had them seated around her kitchen table, serving up reheated tamales and beans, despite the late hour. Jack watched Evelyn eat with surprising appetite, the refined society woman nowhere to be seen. Sam was nodding off over his plate until Emma, protective as always, guided him to one of the makeshift beds. "They're good kids," Maria observed. "Been through something hard, haven't they? Too hard." Jack agreed, his eyes on Evelyn as she tucked Sam in, smoothing his hair with a tenderness that made his chest ache. Later, unable to sleep, Jack found himself on the ranch's wide porch, looking out at a horizon unmarred by city lights. The stars were brilliant here, countless and ancient, making his problems seem both smaller and more significant somehow. Evelyn joined him, wrapped in one of Maria's hand-knitted blankets. "Can't sleep either." "Too much adrenaline," Jack said. "Keep thinking about what Montgomery's next move will be." "He'll use the media," Evelyn said with certainty. "Paint me as a kidnapper who's corrupted a small-town mechanic. He'll make you out to be some kind of predator who's after my money." "Joke's on him. You don't have any money right now." She laughed, but it was hollow. "I have millions, Jack. Hundreds of millions. I just can't touch any of it without him knowing exactly where I am." "Would you go back if you could have the money without him?" Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. 2 weeks ago, I would have said yes. The money meant security, meant Sam could have everything. But now... She turned to look at him. "Emma and Sam built a fort out of cardboard boxes today while we were packing. They were so happy. Happier than Sam ever was with his $1,000 playsets. So no, I wouldn't go back. Even if it means being on the run, living in hiding." "We're not living in hiding," Evelyn corrected. "We're living. For the first time in years, we're actually living." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities, until Jack's phone buzzed. It was Danny texting from a burner phone. "Found the doctor. He's scared but willing to talk. Can you get to Houston tomorrow?" Jack showed Evelyn the message. Her face went pale, then determined. "We have to go," she said. "If he can prove Montgomery killed Chris, it's a risk. Houston's Montgomery territory. Everything's a risk now." She pulled the blanket tighter. "But this could end it. Give us real freedom, not just running." The next morning, Roberto agreed to watch the kids, promising to teach them to ride horses. Emma was thrilled, Sam terrified, but trying to be brave. Jack hated leaving them, but they needed this testimony. The drive to Houston was tense, both of them watching for tails, taking random exits, doubling back. Evelyn had changed her appearance as much as possible, her honey blonde hair hidden under a baseball cap, designer posture replaced with a deliberate slouch. They met Dr. Harrison Webb at a small medical clinic in a rundown part of Houston, far from the gleaming medical centers where he'd once worked. He was thin, nervous, constantly checking the windows. "I shouldn't be here," he said immediately. "I took the money to disappear for a reason." "But you're here," Evelyn said gently. "Why?" Webb looked at her, Sulau awed at her, and something in his expression cracked. "Because I took an oath. First, do no harm. And I've been living with the harm I allowed for 3 months. He pulled out a tablet, hands shaking. "I kept copies. Insurance, I guess. Or conscience." He showed them medical records, test results. Christopher Hamilton was murdered. Potassium chloride injection probably in his scotch. It would have been quick, but painful, like his heart was being crushed. Evelyn made a sound like she'd been punched. Jack took her hand, squeezing tight. Montgomery was there, Webb continued. He called me personally to do the autopsy, said it was a family matter needed to be handled delicately. Paid me $2 million to retire immediately after. Will you testify? Jack asked. Webb laughed bitterly. Against Montgomery Hamilton, that's a death sentence. He killed his own son, Evelyn said, her voice raw. Chris was trying to make the company better, cleaner, and Montgomery killed him for it. I know, Webb said quietly. Chris was a good man. He came to my clinic once, did you know that? We serve low-income families here. He came personally, no cameras, no publicity, and paid off medical debt for every single patient. Hundreds of thousands of dollars just gone. Said it was the right thing to do. That sounds like Chris, Evelyn whispered. Webb sighed deeply, suddenly looking older than his 60 years. I'll testify, but I need protection. Real protection, not just promises. FBI, Jack suggested. The FBI's already investigating Hamilton Oil for fraud. Danny's voice came from the doorway. They all jumped, but it was just the PI looking pleased with himself. My anonymous tips have been very productive. They'll be very interested in adding murder to the charges. Within 2 hours, they were in the Houston FBI field office, Webb telling his story to agents, who listened with increasing interest. Evelyn held Jack's hand through it all, squeezing tighter with each detail of Chris's death. We'll need to move fast, the lead agent Sarah Kim said. Once Montgomery knows we have Webb, he'll either run or do something desperate. He won't run, Evelyn said with certainty. Running means admitting defeat. Montgomery Hamilton never admits defeat. Agent Kim studied her. Then what will he do? He'll come for Sam. One way or another, he'll come for his grandson. The drive back to the ranch was quiet, both of them processing what they'd learned, what came next. The FBI had promised protection, arrest warrants, justice. But promises felt thin against Montgomery's power. As they pulled up to the ranch, something felt wrong. It was too quiet. The horses that had been in the front pasture were gone. Roberto's truck was there, but the house lights were off, despite it being early evening. Stay in the truck, Jack said, but Evelyn was already getting out. My son's in there. They approached the house carefully, Jack wishing he had something more than a tire iron for protection. The front door was open, creaking in the wind. Inside, they found Roberto and Maria tied up but unharmed in the living room. Roberto had a black eye. Maria's face was streaked with tears. The children, Maria gasped as Jack untied her. They took the children. The world tilted. Jack heard Evelyn scream, or maybe that was him, his Emma, Sam, gone. There was a note on the kitchen table, Montgomery's letterhead. His bold handwriting, the FBI has Webb. I have something more valuable. Come alone, both of you. Hamilton Estate, midnight. We end this tonight. He took them, Evelyn was saying over and over. He took our babies. Jack called Agent Kim, but she delivered worse news. Montgomery's in the wind. His lawyers showed up with injunctions, jurisdictional challenges. By the time we sort through it all, he'll have disappeared with the kids, Jack finished. We have to go. It's a trap, Kim warned. Let us handle. You can't handle Montgomery Hamilton, Jack said flatly. You said it yourself, he's got lawyers to tie you up for days. We don't have days, we don't have hours. He hung up, turned to Evelyn. We're going. It's what he wants, us walking into his trap. I don't care. Emma's there. Sam's there. We're going. Roberto, now untied and furious, spoke up. Not alone, you're not. Danny called some people. They're on their way. What people? People who remember Chris Hamilton. People who Montgomery stepped on to build his empire. You'd be surprised how many enemies that man has. Within an hour, a small convoy had formed. Danny arrived with 3 veterans from the VA hospital, where Sarah had worked, men who remembered Jack and were eager to help. Miguel showed up with his cousins, all mechanics, who knew how to handle more than just engines. Even Tom Bradley from Jack's Street arrived, bringing his hunting rifle and a grim determination. This is crazy, Evelyn said, looking at the assembled group. These aren't soldiers. They're regular people. Regular people who are tired of rich bastards thinking they own the world, Tom Bradley said. That little girl taught my grandson to ride a bike last summer. I'll be damned if Montgomery Hamilton thinks he can just take her. The plan was simple because complex plans fall apart. The main group would go to the front gate, create a distraction. Jack and Evelyn would go through the back where Chris had shown Evelyn a security gap years ago, something he'd kept secret even from his father. As they prepared to leave, Evelyn pulled Jack aside. If something happens, nothing's going to happen. Jack, please, if something happens to me, promise you'll take care of Sam. Raise him like Emma, normal, happy. We're both getting out of this, Jack insisted. All 4 of us. She kissed him, then sudden and desperate tasting of fear and determination. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I know it's too soon, too complicated, too everything, but I love you. I love you too, Jack said, meaning it more than he'd thought possible. Now let's go get our kids. The Hamilton estate was a fortress of wealth sprawling across hundreds of acres outside Houston. The main gate was lit up like a stadium, security guards visible even from a distance. But the back area where the old servants' entrance used to be was darker, forgotten. As planned, Danny's group approached the main gate just before midnight, making noise, demanding to see Montgomery, creating chaos. Jack and Evelyn slipped through the gap in the fence Chris had shown her during one of their secret escapes from family dinners. The house loomed before them, massive and cold. Evelyn led the way, knowing the layout, avoiding the motion sensors Chris had pointed out. They entered through the pool house, empty and echoing. Inside the main house, it was eerily quiet. No staff, no security inside. Like Montgomery had cleared the stage for this final act. They found him in his study, the same room where Chris had fought with him the night he died. Emma and Sam were there, huddled together on a leather couch, Emma's arm protectively around the younger boy. "Daddy!" Emma cried, starting to run to him, but Montgomery stepped forward, blocking her path. "Stay where you are, child." His voice was calm, controlled. He looked older than when Jack had last seen him, the pressure of the FBI investigation showing in new lines on his face. "We're having a civilized discussion." "Let them go," Jack said. "Your fight's with us, not them." "My fight," Montgomery laughed coldly. "I'm trying to save my grandson from a poverty-stricken life with a mother who's clearly lost her mind and a mechanic who's corrupted her with delusions of love." "You killed Chris," Evelyn said flatly. "We have proof. The FBI has proof." Something flickered in Montgomery's eyes. "Chris was weak. He would have destroyed everything I built, everything his grandfather built. For what, solar panels and wind farms? He betrayed the family legacy." "So you killed him," Jack said, pulling out his phone recording. "You murdered your own son." "I preserved the empire," Montgomery corrected. "Chris would understand that eventually. Sam will understand it too when he's older, when I've raised him properly." "You're not raising my son." Evelyn stepped forward. "You're going to prison." "Am I?" Montgomery smiled. "My lawyers will have me out on bail within hours. The case will drag on for years. Meanwhile, I'll have custody of Sam granted by a judge who owes me favors. You'll be declared unfit, institutionalized, perhaps. And Mr. Morrison here will have an unfortunate accident. They happen all the time in his line of work. You're forgetting something, Jack said. Those people outside, they're streaming this live. Every word you're saying is being broadcast. Montgomery's composure finally cracked. He rushed to the window, seeing the crowd that had gathered, phones raised, recording everything through the massive study windows. "You clever bitch," he snarled at Evelyn, his refined mask finally slipping. "You think you've won. You've destroyed everything. The company, the family name, all of it. Good," Evelyn said simply. It needed destroying. Montgomery moved faster than his age should have allowed, grabbing a letter opener from his desk. But Jack was faster, years of working with dangerous equipment giving him reflexes. Montgomery's pampered life never could. He knocked the weapon away, and Montgomery fell, looking suddenly frail and old. "It's over," Jack said, as police sirens became audible in the distance. The real police, this time called by the FBI, unavoidable now with dozens of witnesses. Emma and Sam ran to them, Emma launching herself at Jack, while Sam clung to Evelyn. They held their children tight, a family forged in crisis, but no less real for it. "You've ruined him," Montgomery said from the floor, looking at Sam. "He could have had everything, power, money, control." "He'll have something better," Evelyn said, holding her son close. "He'll have love. He'll have choice. He'll have a normal life." "Normal." Montgomery spit the word like a curse. "You've condemned him to being ordinary." "No." Sam spoke up, his young voice steady. "You condemned Daddy to being like you. Mom saved me from that." The police arrived then, Agent Kim leading them, arrest warrant in hand. Montgomery was read his rights, led away in handcuffs, while news crews captured every moment. The empire he'd killed to protect crumbled in real time. Later, much later, after statements had been given, and the children had been checked by paramedics, the four of them sat in Jack's truck, heading home. Not to the ranch, not into hiding, but home to Millbrook, to the little house with the creaky stairs and the garage that needed rebuilding. "Are we safe now?" Sam asked in a small voice. "We're safe," Evelyn assured him, though she looked to Jack for confirmation. "We're safe," Jack agreed. "Montgomery's going to prison. The company's going to be investigated. It's over." "What happens to us now?" Emma asked, voicing what they were all thinking. Jack and Evelyn exchanged glances. They'd been thrown together by crisis, united by danger. What happened when the danger was gone, now? Jack said carefully, "We figure out how to be a normal family." "A bonus family," Emma corrected. "You said we're a bonus family." "Right, a bonus family. Does that mean Ms. Evelyn and Sam live with us forever?" Emma asked hopefully. "If that's okay with you," Evelyn said softly. "It's very okay," Emma announced. "Sam needs to learn so many things, and I need a brother to boss around." "Hey," Sam protested, but he was smiling. As they drove through the night, the lights of Millbrook appeared in the distance, welcoming them home. Jack reached over and took Evelyn's hand, intertwining their fingers. "It's not going to be easy," he said quietly. "The media attention, the trial, figuring out how to blend our lives. Nothing about this has been easy," Evelyn pointed out, "but it's been worth it. Even losing everything. I didn't lose everything. I lost money, status, a life that was killing me slowly. But I gained," she looked back at the kids, then at him. "I gained everything that matters." 3 months later, the garage was reopening. Morrison and Associates Auto Repair. The new sign read, "Evelyn having invested some of the money to that was finally unfrozen into expanding the business. The whole town turned out for the reopening, including some surprising guests. Chris's lawyers had managed to salvage something from the Hamilton oil wreckage, setting up a foundation in Chris's name focused on clean energy and medical debt relief. Evelyn ran it from a small office attached to the garage, teaching Sam about giving back, while Emma taught him about being a regular kid. Dr. Webb was there, having testified brilliantly at Montgomery's trial. The old man was going to prison for life, his empire dissolved, his legacy rewritten as one of greed and murder. "You did it," Webb told Evelyn. "You got justice for Chris." "We did it," she corrected, looking at Jack. "I couldn't have done any of this alone." That evening, after the crowd had gone and the garage was quiet, Jack found Evelyn in the office working on foundation paperwork. Sam and Emma were in the break room engaged in an epic Mario Kart battle. "Busy?" he asked. "Always," she said, but smiled. "What's up?" Jack pulled something from his pocket, a simple ring. Nothing like the massive diamond she'd once worn. "I know it's probably too soon and way too complicated, but—" "Yes," Evelyn interrupted. "I haven't asked yet." "Then ask." Jack got down on one knee, right there in the garage office motor oil, still under his fingernails. "Evelyn Grace Hamilton, will you marry a simple mechanic and make this complicated, messy bonus family official?" "Yes," she said again, tears streaming down her face. "Absolutely yes." Emma and Sam, who'd been spying from the doorway, erupted in cheers. "We're getting married," Emma announced to no one in particular. Jack laughed, pulling her into the group hug that formed. "We're a family," Emma said firmly. "We do everything together." 6 months later, they did indeed do it together. The wedding was in the backyard of the little house in Millbrook. White lights strung between the trees, the whole town in attendance. Emma was the maid of honor, as Sam the ring bearer. Miguel officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. Evelyn wore a simple white dress from the local boutique, having donated her designer gowns to charity. Jack wore his only suit, the one he'd bought for Sarah's funeral, now repurposed for a beginning instead of an ending. "Do you, Evelyn, take this man and his daughter and this whole crazy town?" Miguel asked, going off script. "I do," Evelyn laughed. "And do you, Jack, take this woman and her son and all the complications that come with them?" "Every single one," Jack said. When they kissed, the crowd erupted. Emma and Sam high-fived their conspiracy to bring their parents together complete. Later, as they danced in the backyard, Evelyn had finally learned Jack teaching her in the kitchen. Over the past months, she whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For opening your door that night. For seeing past the bruises and the fear. For giving us a chance at normal." "This isn't normal," Jack pointed out, gesturing at their blended family. The unlikely group of friends, the teenager with a camera live streaming the wedding, for those who couldn't attend. "No," Evelyn agreed, pulling him closer. "It's better." As the night wound down, Jack found himself on the porch with Tom Bradley, who'd walked over from his house 3 doors down. "Hell of a thing," Tom said, gesturing at the celebration. "Year ago you were barely keeping your head above water. Now look at you." "Life's strange," Jack agreed. "Sarah would be proud," Tom said gruffly. "You did good, Jack, real good." Inside, Evelyn was tucking the kids into Emma's room. They still insisted on bunking together, even though Sam had his own room now. She kissed each of them goodnight, this woman who'd once had nannies for such tasks. "Are you happy, Mom?" Sam asked sleepily. "Happier than I've ever been," she told him. "Even without all the money and stuff, especially without it. Now sleep, both of you. Tomorrow we're going fishing." "You don't know how to fish," Emma pointed out. "Then you'll teach me." You're good at that." As she closed their door, Jack was waiting in the hallway. "Ready for bed, Mrs. Morrison?" "Evelyn Morrison," she said, testing the name. "I like it. It sounds normal." "There's that word again." "Our favorite word," she said, taking his hand. They stood together in the doorway of what was now their room, looking at the space that had once been just Jack's, then Jack's and Sarah's, and was now theirs. Life didn't follow straight lines, Jack thought. It curved and twisted and sometimes doubled back on itself. But sometimes, if you were very lucky, it led you exactly where you needed to be. "No regrets?" he asked as they got ready for bed this first night as an official family. "One," Evelyn said, and his heart stuttered until she continued. "I wish Chris could see this. Could see Sam so happy, so free. He would have loved you. Loved Emma, loved this life." "He knows," Jack said with certainty. "Somewhere, somehow, he knows." Outside, Millbrook slept peacefully, unaware that its most unlikely family was beginning their new life together. In a mansion in Houston, an old man sat in a federal prison cell, his empire in ruins. And in a small house on Elm Street, 4 people who'd been broken by loss had found a way to build something new from the pieces. It wasn't the life any of them had planned. But it was theirs, earned through struggle and sacrifice, protected by love and determination. And it was in all the ways that mattered perfect. The morning after their wedding dawned crisp and clear autumn, finally breaking the Texas heat. Jack woke to find Evelyn already up, standing by the window in one of his old flannel shirts, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. 6 months of marriage hadn't diminished the wonder he felt seeing her there, this woman who'd transformed their lives so completely. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Sam had a nightmare," she said softly, "about Montgomery. He's been having them more frequently since the trial verdict." Montgomery Hamilton had been sentenced to life without parole 3 weeks ago, but the media circus surrounding the trial had taken its toll on all of them, especially Sam. The boy who'd once been sheltered from everything now had his family's tragedy splashed across every news outlet in the country. "He's strong," Jack said. "He'll get through this." "I know. But sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing putting him through all of this. Maybe I should have just signed the papers. Let Montgomery—" "Stop," Jack said firmly, turning her to face him. "You saved him. You saved both of you. Don't ever doubt that." Before she could respond, they heard a crash from downstairs, followed by Emma's voice. "It's okay. Everything's fine. Nobody needs to come down here." They found the kitchen in chaos, flour covering every surface, Emma and Sam in the middle of it all, trying to clean up what appeared to be an attempt at anniversary pancakes. "We wanted to surprise you," Sam said miserably, flour in his dark hair making him look like a tiny ghost. "You succeeded," Jack said, surveying the damage. "I'm definitely surprised." "It's the thought that counts, right?" Emma said hopefully, holding up a plate of what might charitably be called pancakes, but looked more like abstract art. Evelyn knelt down, pulling both kids into a flowery hug. "It's perfect. The best anniversary breakfast ever." As they cleaned up together, laughing at the mess, Jack's phone rang. It was Danny, and his voice was tense. "We have a problem. Remember Marcus Hamilton, Montgomery's brother?" Jack's stomach dropped. Marcus Hamilton had been notably absent during the trial, living in Europe for the past decade. "What about him?" "He's back, and he's filed for custody of Sam." The laughter died in the kitchen. Evelyn had gone pale, her hand finding Sam's shoulder instinctively. "He can't," she said when Jack relayed the news. "The court gave me full custody. Montgomery's parental rights were terminated. Marcus is claiming he wasn't notified about the proceedings. Danny explained over speaker. Says as Sam's great uncle, he should have been considered as a guardian. He's got lawyers, good ones. Of course he does, Jack muttered. He's a Hamilton. Within an hour, their lawyer Frank Martinez was at the house documents spread across the kitchen table, where flour still dusted the corners. Marcus Hamilton is different from Montgomery, Frank explained. Clean record, no connection to the criminal enterprise. He's been running sustainable energy companies in Europe, ironically, the same direction Chris wanted to take the company. Then why didn't he help Chris? Evelyn demanded. Where was he when Chris was fighting Montgomery alone? According to his filing, there was a family rift. Montgomery cut him off 20 years ago when Marcus refused to join the oil business. He claims he didn't even know Chris had died until recently. Bullshit, Jack said flatly. The murder trial was international news. Maybe, but proving he knew is different from suspecting it. Frank adjusted his glasses. He's requesting a meeting. Today. His lawyers say he wants to discuss this without court involvement. It's a trap, Evelyn said immediately. Another Hamilton power play. Maybe, Frank agreed. But if we refuse, it looks like we're being unreasonable. Judges don't like that. The meeting was scheduled for neutral ground. Frank's law office in downtown Houston. Jack insisted on going with Evelyn, and after much debate, they decided to bring the kids. Emma because she refused to be left out of family business, and Sam because at 8 years old, he deserved to have a voice in his own future. Marcus Hamilton was nothing like his brother. Where Montgomery had been all sharp edges and cold command, Marcus was softer, wearing a simple business suit instead of Montgomery's $1,000 power statements. He had Chris's eyes, Evelyn noticed immediately, the same warm brown that Sam had inherited. Evelyn, Marcus said, standing as they entered. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. And you must be Jack. I've heard a lot about you. All bad, I'm sure, Jack said, not taking the offered hand. Marcus smiled sadly. Actually, all good. Chris spoke highly of you in his letters. That stopped everyone cold. Letters? Evelyn asked. Marcus pulled out a stack of envelopes worn from reading. Chris wrote to me every month for the last 5 years. He wanted to reconnect, to bridge the family divide. He told me about you, Evelyn, about how you saved him from becoming like Montgomery. And after Sam was born, every letter was full of his son. He pulled out one letter dated just a week before Chris died. Listen to this, Marcus. I've found a partner who sees the world like we do. Evelyn's brilliant with numbers, could run the company better than me if father would let her. And Sam, God, Marcus, he's everything. Smart and kind and curious about everything. I want him to grow up free, not trapped in the Hamilton cage. If something happens to me, promise you'll look out for them. Evelyn was crying silently, hearing Chris's voice in the words. Sam moved closer to her, taking her hand. Why didn't you come forward during the trial? Jack asked, his suspicion not entirely dissolved. I was in Antarctica, Marcus said, which was so unexpected that even Frank looked surprised. I was leading a climate research expedition completely off-grid for 6 months. I only learned about everything when I returned 2 weeks ago. My brother murdered my nephew, and I wasn't here to stop it or help prosecute him. And now you want Sam. Evelyn's voice was steel despite the tears. No, Marcus said, surprising them again. I want to know Sam. I want to honor Chris's request to look out for you both. But I've seen the news coverage, seen how you've built a life in Millbrook. I'm not here to destroy that. Then why the custody filing? Jack demanded. To get your attention, Marcus admitted. My lawyers said if I just showed up, you'd run hide, assume I was another Montgomery. The filing was to force a meeting. That's manipulative, Evelyn said. Yes, Marcus agreed simply. It is. I'm a Hamilton. Manipulation is in our DNA. But I'm trying to be better. Chris was trying to be better. I'd like to help his son be better still. Sam, who'd been silent throughout, suddenly spoke up. You knew my dad. Marcus's face softened. I did. He was my favorite nephew, brave enough to stand up to Montgomery when I just ran away. Tell me about him, Sam said. Everyone tells me about how he died. Nobody tells me about how he lived. For the next hour, Marcus told stories. Chris as a child stealing cookies to share with the gardener's kids. Chris in college organizing protests against his own family's company. Chris calling Marcus for advice on sustainable energy, dreaming of transforming Hamilton Oil into something that helped rather than harmed. He would have been so proud of what your mother did, Marcus told Sam. Standing up to Montgomery, protecting you, choosing love over money. That's exactly what Chris would have done. So what do you want? Evelyn asked finally. Really? I want to be an uncle, Marcus said. Not a guardian, not a custody holder, just an uncle. I want to know my nephew, support his education, maybe teach him about the clean energy work his father dreamed of. And he paused, pulling out a folder. I want to give you this. Inside was documentation for a trust fund already established in Sam's name. But more importantly, there were shares, Marcus's shares in what remained of Hamilton companies, signed over to Sam with Evelyn as trustee until he turned 21. This gives you controlling interest, Frank said, reviewing the documents quickly. With Sam's existing shares and these, you'd own 51%. Chris wanted to change the company, Marcus said. Montgomery stopped him. But maybe Sam can finish what his father started. When he's ready, if he wants to. And if he doesn't want to, Jack asked, protective of the boy who just learned to ride a bike, who shouldn't have to carry a corporate legacy. Then he sells it all and uses the money to do whatever makes him happy, Marcus said. Build rocket ships, open a bakery, become a mechanic like his stepfather. The point is, he gets to choose. Evelyn looked at Jack, then at Sam, who was processing all of this with a maturity beyond his 8 years. What do you think, Sam? She asked. I think, Sam said slowly, I think Dad would want me to know his uncle, but I also think he'd want me to stay with Mom and Jack and Emma. We're a family now. Of course you are, Marcus said. I'm not trying to change that. I'm asking to be added to it distantly, carefully. Maybe I visit once a month. Maybe Sam and I exchange letters like Chris and I did. Letters. Sam perked up. Real letters. Real letters. Marcus confirmed. Your father said there was something special about putting pen to paper, making thoughts permanent. Emma, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. If you're Sam's uncle, does that make you my uncle too? Because we're a bonus family, and bonus families share everything. Marcus looked confused until Jack explained their term. Then he smiled, the first genuine smile they'd seen from him. I would be honored to be your bonus uncle, Emma. The lawyers worked out the details over the next few hours. Marcus would withdraw the custody filing instead, accepting regular visitation 1 weekend a month holidays by mutual agreement. He would establish education funds for both Sam and Emma, insisting that bonus families did indeed share everything. And he would begin the slow process of transforming what remained of Hamilton Industries into the sustainable energy company Chris had envisioned. As they were leaving, Marcus pulled Jack aside. Thank you, he said quietly, for protecting them when I couldn't. Chris would have liked you. You're the kind of man he aspired to be, honest, hard-working, putting family first. He sounds like he was already that man, Jack said. He was trying to be. Montgomery never gave him the chance to fully become himself. Marcus looked at Sam, laughing at something Emma had said. Don't let me become another Montgomery. If I push too hard, if I try to control too much, tell me. Stop me. Count on it, Jack said, and meant it. That evening back in Millbrook, they sat around the dinner table, their new Friday tradition of homemade pizza, which Evelyn had finally mastered after numerous disasters. Sam was quiet, processing the day's events. "You okay, buddy?" Jack asked. "Uncle Marcus looks like Dad," Sam said. "In the eyes. It was weird, but also nice." "Are you glad we met him?" Evelyn asked carefully. "Yeah, he knew Dad as a kid. Most people only knew him as Christopher Hamilton, important businessman. But Uncle Marcus knew him as Chris, who stole cookies and shared them." "That's a good memory to have," Jack said. "Mr. Jack," Sam said, and something in his tone made everyone pay attention. "Can I ask you something? Always. Would it be okay if I called you Dad? Not to replace my first dad, but like you're my dad now too. Is that okay?" Jack felt his throat close with emotion. He looked at Evelyn, whose eyes were bright with tears, then at Emma, who was nodding enthusiastically. "That would be more than okay," Jack managed. "That would be an honor." "Cool," Sam said, as if he hadn't just reshuffled Jack's entire heart. "Can I have more pizza, Dad?" The word casual and natural filled the kitchen like sunlight. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Jack and Evelyn sat on their porch, the autumn air crisp and clear. The stars were visible, even with the town's modest light pollution, and somewhere a dog barked in the distance. Normal, peaceful sounds of their normal, peaceful life. "A year ago, I was sleeping in your garage, terrified and alone," Evelyn said softly. "Now I have a family, a home, a purpose. And Sam has an uncle who isn't trying to control him." "Marcus could still be playing a long game," Jack warned, though he didn't really believe it. "Maybe, but I don't think so. He had Chris's eyes, but more than that, he had Chris's sadness, the weight of wanting to do right, but not knowing how. You think he's genuine? I think he's trying to be. That's all any of us can do, right? Try to be better than we were yesterday." Jack pulled her closer. "You're pretty philosophical for someone who couldn't work a dishwasher a year ago." She laughed. "I've had a good teacher. Emma is pretty wise." "I meant you, you idiot." "I know," Jack grinned. "But Emma's wiser." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the empty street, no longer fearing every car that passed. The danger had passed, the Hamiltons defanged their little family safe. The next morning brought what was becoming their new normal Saturday morning at the garage. It had evolved from Jack's solo operation into a community hub. Evelyn ran the foundation from her office, processing applications for grants, organizing fundraisers. Emma and Sam had claimed a corner of the break room as their homework station, though more often they were helping Miguel with simple repairs. "Dad," Sam called out the word, still made Jack's heart skip. "Miguel says I can help change Mrs. Henderson's oil. With supervision." Jack called back then to Miguel, "Close supervision." "You worry too much, boss." Miguel grinned. "Kid's got good hands. Natural mechanic." "Don't let Marcus hear that," Evelyn said, passing by with a box of donation receipts. "He's hoping for an environmental engineer." "Sam can be whatever he wants," Jack said firmly. "That's the whole point." The bell above the door chimed and Tom Bradley walked in with someone Jack didn't recognize. A young woman mid-20s with tired eyes and a baby on her hip. "Jack, Evelyn," Tom said. "This is my niece Amy. She's in a bit of trouble." The story came out in pieces. An abusive ex-husband, a flight in the night, nowhere to go. Tom had heard about what Jack and Evelyn had done for each other and thought maybe, "We're not a shelter. Jack started to say, then caught Evelyn's eye. She was looking at Amy the way Jack had looked at her that night in the rain, seeing not the trouble but the person in trouble. "But we know people," Evelyn said smoothly. "The foundation has resources, and there's a small apartment above the garage that's not being used." "It's a storage room," Jack pointed out. "It's a space that could be converted," Evelyn countered. "Miguel's cousin does construction. The foundation could fund it as transitional housing." And just like that, their mission expanded. Within a month, the apartment above the garage was renovated, and Amy had moved in helping with the foundation's administrative work while she got back on her feet. Her baby Lucy became the garage mascot, passed between mechanics and customers, alike, everyone pitching in to help. "We're becoming a compound," Jack joked one evening watching Amy teach Evelyn how to properly hold Lucy while Emma and Sam played with the baby's toys. "We're becoming a community," Evelyn corrected. "Isn't that what small towns are supposed to be? Everyone helping everyone." Marcus visited for the first time the following weekend. He drove a Tesla, which Sam found endlessly fascinating, and brought gifts that showed he'd been paying attention: books about space for Sam, who'd mentioned wanting to be an astronaut, art supplies for Emma, who'd started painting a rare orchid for Evelyn, who'd been trying to keep plants alive with limited success, and for Jack, a set of vintage tools from the 1950s. "These were Chris's grandfather's," Marcus explained. "Before oil, he was a shipbuilder, worked with his hands. Chris kept these in his office, said they reminded him that the family hadn't always been about money and power." The weekend went better than expected. Marcus was careful not to overstep, letting Sam set the pace of their interactions. He helped in the garage, getting his expensive clothes dirty without complaint. He told stories about Chris that made Evelyn laugh and cry in equal measure. He even won Emma over by teaching her chess, then graciously losing multiple games. "He's not what I expected," Jack admitted to Evelyn that night. "Hamilton men rarely are," she said. "Montgomery was the exception, not the rule. Chris's grandfather, the shipbuilder, he was apparently a lot like you, honest, hard-working, devoted to family. Montgomery corrupted the legacy, not the other way around. And Marcus is trying to restore it. Through Sam, through the company transformation, through making amends. It won't undo the damage Montgomery did, but it's a start." As autumn turned to winter, their strange extended family settled into rhythm. Marcus's visits became anticipated events. Amy found a job and started rebuilding her life. The garage thrived with Evelyn's business acumen backing Jack's mechanical skills. The foundation had helped dozens of families with medical debt, funded 3 clean energy startups, and established a scholarship program at the local technical college. But it was the small moments that mattered most. Sam calling Jack Dad without thinking about it. Emma teaching Lucy to crawl in the garage break room. Evelyn mastering the Thanksgiving turkey without burning it. Marcus and Jack working together to restore a classic car that had been Chris's planning to give it to Sam when he turned 16. One evening in early December, as they decorated the house for Christmas, their second as a family, Sam made an announcement. "I want to change my name," he said, hanging an ornament Emma had made in art class. Everyone stopped. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Evelyn asked carefully. "I want to be Sam Morrison Hamilton, or Hamilton Morrison. I haven't decided the order yet." He looked at Jack. "Is that okay? I know I'm not really your son, but—" "You are really my son," Jack said firmly, kneeling down to Sam's level. "Biology doesn't make a family, choice does, and I choose you every day. And I choose you, Dad." The adoption papers were filed the next week. Marcus not only supported it, but offered to testify on Jack's behalf if needed. Montgomery, from his prison cell, tried to object, but his parental rights had been terminated. By Valentine's Day, it was official: Sam Hamilton Morrison, choosing to put Hamilton first to honor his biological father's memory, and Morrison second to honor his chosen father's love. The adoption celebration was held at the garage, the whole town invited. Mrs. Patterson from the school brought a cake shaped like a car. Miguel's band played. Amy and Lucy, now thriving, helped serve food. Even Agent Kim from the FBI stopped by, having become oddly invested in their story. "You know," Kim said to Jack, watching the crowd, "when we first started investigating Montgomery, I thought this would end tragically. Rich families usually do." "We're not rich," Jack pointed out. "Aren't you?" Kim gestured at the party. Emma teaching other kids to paint, Sam and Marcus working on a solar panel project for the science fair, Evelyn organizing a fundraiser with the church ladies. "Seems to me you're richer than Montgomery ever was." As winter turned to spring, life threw them new challenges. Emma struggled with math requiring tutoring that revealed she had dyscalculia. Sam had anxiety attacks during thunderstorms, remembering the night they'd fled Montgomery. Evelyn discovered she was pregnant, a surprise that thrilled and terrified them in equal measure. "Another kid," Jack said, staring at the pregnancy test. "Can we handle another kid?" "We're handling a garage, a foundation, a recovering abuse survivor, and a reformed Hamilton," Evelyn pointed out. "I think we can manage a baby." "Our baby," Jack said, the wonder of it hitting him. "Yours and mine." "The kids are going to flip," Evelyn laughed. They did flip, but in the best way. Emma immediately began planning the nursery. Sam started researching baby development with scientific intensity, and even Marcus got involved, insisting on funding a college account before the baby was even born. "It's tradition," he said. "Hamiltons always plan ahead." "This baby will be a Morrison," Jack pointed out. "Morrison Hamilton," Marcus corrected with a smile. "Or Hamilton Morrison. The order doesn't matter. Family is family." The summer heat had returned to Millbrook with a vengeance, and Evelyn, now 7 months pregnant, moved through the garage office with the careful grace of someone carrying precious cargo. Jack watched her from the doorway, still amazed that this woman who'd once run from everything now ran toward their future with such determination. "You should be resting," he said for the 100th time that week. "I should be working," she countered, reviewing grant applications. "The foundation doesn't stop because I'm pregnant." "The foundation won't collapse if you take a day off," says the man who worked with a broken finger for a week before admitting he needed an X-ray. Before Jack could respond, chaos erupted in the garage bay. Sam came running, his face white with panic, Emma right behind him. "Dad." "Mom, there's a man. He says he's from the state. He has papers." Jack's blood ran cold. They'd been living in peace for months, the threats seemingly behind them. But now, as he walked into the garage, he saw a man in a suit, despite the heat, holding an official-looking folder. "Mr. Morrison, Mrs. Morrison," the man said, his tone professionally neutral. "I'm David Chen from the Texas Department of Family Services. We've received a complaint about the welfare of the minor children in your care." "A complaint from who?" Jack demanded, moving protectively in front of his family. "The complaint was anonymous," Chen said, though something in his expression suggested he knew more. "But given the high-profile nature of your family situation, we're required to investigate." Evelyn stepped forward, every inch the composed billionaire's widow, despite her advanced pregnancy and garage-stained maternity clothes. "Mr. Chen, I'm sure you're aware of our history with false allegations. Montgomery Hamilton is in federal prison," Chen interrupted. "This isn't coming from him, at least not directly." That's when Jack saw her, a woman sitting in an expensive car across the street watching. She was elegant, mid-60s, with the kind of careful preservation that came from the best surgeons money could buy. "Vivian," Evelyn breathed, recognizing her. Chris's aunt, Montgomery's sister. Vivian Hamilton Ashford stepped out of the car with practiced grace, her designer heels clicking on the asphalt as she approached. She looked at Evelyn with undisguised contempt, at Jack with dismissal, and at Sam with something that might have been longing. "Evelyn," she said coolly, "you're looking maternal." "What do you want, Vivian?" Evelyn asked, her hand finding Sam's shoulder. "What I've always wanted, what's best for my family. My brother may be in prison, but the Hamilton name still means something. And seeing my great-nephew raised in a garage like some common—" "Choose your next words very carefully," Jack warned, his voice low and dangerous. Vivian's lips pursed. "I simply mean that Sam deserves better. His trust fund alone could buy this entire town." "This town is our home," Sam said, finding his voice. "These people are our family." "Family." Vivian laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "A mechanic, his daughter, and whatever that is growing inside you, that's not family, dear boy. That's desperation." Mr. Chen cleared his throat. "Mrs. Hamilton Ashford has raised concerns about the children's education, living conditions, and the influence of certain individuals with criminal connections." "Criminal connections!" Jack exploded. "The only criminal in this story is in federal prison for murder." "I believe she's referring to me," a familiar voice said. Marcus had arrived, probably alerted by someone in town who'd seen the state car. "Hello, Vivian. Still bitter that Daddy left the company to Montgomery and not you?" "Marcus." Vivian's voice could have frozen hell. "The family disappointment. Of course you'd be involved in this circus." "The only circus is the one you're creating," Marcus said calmly. He turned to Chen. "Mr. Chen, I'm Marcus Hamilton. I believe if you check your records, you'll find I've been thoroughly vetted and approved as part of this family's support system." Chen nodded, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Mr. Hamilton, yes. Your background check was extensive and clean. However, we still need to conduct the welfare inspection." "Then conduct it," Evelyn said, her voice steady, despite Jack seeing her hands shake. "Look at our home talk to our children, speak with their teachers. You'll find 2 kids who are loved, supported, and thriving." The inspection took 3 hours. Chen interviewed each child separately, examined the house, reviewed school records that Frank Martinez had wisely prepared in advance. Emma charmed him with her articulate description of their family life, while Sam impressed him with his emotional intelligence and academic achievements. "My dad, Jack, teaches me about cars and honesty," Sam told Chen. "My mom teaches me about giving back and standing up for what's right. Uncle Marcus teaches me about science and the environment. Emma teaches me about being a normal kid. I have everything I need." Meanwhile, Vivian waited in the garage office, her presence like a dark cloud. Miguel and the other mechanics gave her a wide berth, but Amy, who'd become fiercely protective of the family that had saved her, stood nearby with Lucy, a silent sentinel. "This is ridiculous," Vivian said to no one in particular. "That boy has a fortune waiting for him, and they have him playing in motor oil." "That boy," Amy said quietly, "is happy." "When's the last time a Hamilton could say that?" Vivian turned on her with aristocratic fury. "And who are you to speak about Hamilton affairs? Someone who knows what it's like to run from people who think money gives them ownership of others," Amy replied steadily. "Someone who's seen what real family looks like, and lady, this is it." Before Vivian could respond, Chen returned with his verdict. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, I find no cause for concern regarding the welfare of the children. In fact," he added, looking directly at Vivian, "I find this to be one of the most stable, loving homes I've inspected in my 15-year career." "This is absurd," Vivian sputtered. "You've been compromised, influenced, ma'am." Chen interrupted his professional patience, finally fraying, "Filing false reports with family services is a crime. I suggest you reconsider any future complaints." After Chen left, Vivian stood facing them all, Jack. Evelyn, the kids, Marcus, the gathered mechanics and friends who'd come to support them. She was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, but still dangerous in her wounded pride. "This isn't over," she said. "Sam is a Hamilton. He belongs with his blood." "Sam is a Hamilton Morrison," Sam said clearly. "And I'm exactly where I belong." "You're a child. You don't understand what you're giving up." "I understand perfectly," Sam said, and there was something of Chris in his quiet strength. "I'm giving up a cage made of gold for a home made of love. My dad, my first dad, would understand. He wanted this for me." Vivian's composure finally cracked. "Christopher was a fool, and look where it got him." "It got him love," Evelyn said softly. "It got him a son who will grow up free. It got him a legacy that isn't built on cruelty and control. Chris won Vivian. Even in death he won." Vivian left without another word, her expensive car disappearing down the street. But the damage was done. Evelyn's blood pressure had spiked during the confrontation, and Jack insisted on taking her to the hospital. Dr. Patel, who'd been monitoring the pregnancy closely due to Evelyn's age and stress levels, wasn't pleased. "Bed rest," she ordered. "Real bed rest, not working from bed. This baby needs at least 4 more weeks to cook properly." "But the foundation," Evelyn started. "We'll survive without you," Jack said firmly. "Amy can handle the day-to-day, Marcus can review the big decisions, and you can rest." "I don't know how to rest," Evelyn admitted as they drove home. "Even when I was married to Chris, there was always something, a charity event, a board meeting, something to plan or worry about." "Then it's time you learned," Jack said. "Doctor's orders." The next few weeks became a lesson in forced stillness for Evelyn and community strength for everyone else. Amy took over the foundation's daily operations with surprising efficiency, having learned from watching Evelyn. Marcus increased his visits, helping with both business decisions and keeping Sam and Emma entertained. The mechanics' wives organized meal deliveries, so Jack wouldn't have to cook after long days at the garage. Even Tom Bradley contributed, setting up a lawn chair across from the house and appointing himself security, glaring at any unfamiliar car that dared to drive down their street. "This is embarrassing," Evelyn said from her bed, where Emma and Sam had set up a whole entertainment system, Ox puzzles, Sam's latest science project, and Emma's art supplies spread across every surface. "This is family," Jack corrected, bringing her lunch that Rosa Martinez had dropped off. "People taking care of each other. I used to have staff for this," Evelyn mused. "A whole team of people paid to anticipate my needs." "Which would you rather have?" Jack asked. "Paid help or Tom Bradley standing guard with his hunting rifle?" "Tom, definitely." Evelyn laughed, then winced. "Oh, Jack, I think what?" But he saw her expression change, saw her hand go to her belly. "No, it's too early. You're only 36 weeks. Tell that to the baby." Evelyn gasped as another contraction hit. The next hours blurred together. The rush to the hospital, Emma and Sam insisting on coming, Marcus meeting them there, having broken several speed limits, Amy arriving with half the town following. The garage closing early as Miguel brought the entire crew to the waiting room. "This is excessive," Jack said, looking at the crowd that had taken over the maternity waiting area. "This is Millbrook," Mrs. Patterson corrected, having brought cookies for everyone. "We don't miss the important stuff." Labor was long and difficult, Evelyn's age and stress making everything more complicated. Jack stayed by her side, coaching her through each contraction, whispering encouragement when she said she couldn't do it anymore. You survived Montgomery Hamilton, he reminded her. You can survive this. Montgomery never felt like my insides were being ripped apart. She gasped, then laughed despite the pain. Actually, metaphorically, he did exactly that. 16 hours after arriving at the hospital, Christopher Jackson Morrison made his entrance into the world, 7 pounds 2 ounces of perfect screaming life. They'd chosen the name together, honoring the past while claiming the future. He's perfect, Evelyn whispered, exhausted but radiant, as she held their son. He looks like you, Jack said, touching the baby's impossibly small fingers. He looks like us, Evelyn corrected. Our son, Sam and Emma's brother. When they brought the siblings in to meet the baby, Sam was hesitant, afraid to hurt something so small. Emma predictably took charge immediately. He's very small, she announced. We'll have to protect him. Sam, you're in charge of teaching him science stuff when he's older. I'll handle the important things like bike riding and cookie stealing. Cookie stealing is important, Sam asked. Very important, Emma said seriously. It's a family tradition now. Marcus held his newest nephew with tears in his eyes. Chris would be so happy, he said quietly. So proud of what you've built. We built, Evelyn corrected. All of us, even you. Especially you showing Sam that Hamilton men can be good. As they settled into a routine with the new baby life, threw them another curveball. Vivian hadn't given up, she'd simply changed tactics. Legal documents arrived challenging the Hamilton trust structure, claiming Evelyn had exercised undue influence over Chris before his death. She can't win this, Frank Martinez said, reviewing the filing. But she can make it expensive and painful to fight. How expensive? Jack asked. More than you have even with the garage doing well. I'll cover it, Marcus said immediately. This is Hamilton family business, and I'm done letting the toxic side of the family hurt the good side. But Vivian had anticipated this. She'd filed injunctions preventing Marcus from using family money for the legal battle, claiming conflict of interest. She's trying to bleed us dry, Evelyn said, exhausted from a night of feeding the baby. Force us to give up Sam's inheritance to make her go away. We don't give up, Jack said firmly. That's not what Morrisons do. Or Hamilton Morrisons, Sam added, having overheard. Dad, what if we did something different? What do you mean, buddy? Sam pulled out his tablet, showing them something he'd been working on with Marcus's help. Uncle Marcus and I have been tracking what's left of Hamilton Oil. The stockholders, the board members, the people grandfather hurt. What if instead of fighting Vivian in court, we fought her in the court of public opinion? It was brilliant in its simplicity. Over the following weeks, they reached out to every family Montgomery had destroyed, every competitor he'd crushed, every employee he'd discarded. The stories poured in decades of cruelty, manipulation, and greed. Amy, proving her newfound skills, coordinated everything into a comprehensive document. Danny, still working his investigative magic, found financial records showing Vivian had been complicit in some of Montgomery's worst schemes. But the masterstroke came from an unexpected source. One morning, a young woman appeared at the garage, expensive suit, at odds with the tentative way she approached. Mrs. Morrison, I'm Jennifer Chen, David Chen's daughter. My father was the social worker who came to inspect your family. Evelyn, holding baby Christopher while reviewing foundation documents, looked up warily. Is there a problem? No, the opposite. Jennifer pulled out a folder. I'm a journalist with the Houston Chronicle. I've been investigating the Hamilton family for 2 years, and my father told me about Vivian's false complaint. I think it's time someone told the real story of what happened to Christopher Hamilton and what's happening to his family now. The article, when it ran, was devastating to Vivian. Jennifer had done her homework, tracing money trails, finding witnesses, painting a picture of a family empire built on corruption and maintained through cruelty. But more than that, she'd captured the love story, Evelyn and Sam finding safety with Jack and Emma, building something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. The public response was immediate and overwhelming. The foundation received donations from across the country. The garage was flooded with customers wanting to support them. And Vivian, facing public humiliation and potential criminal investigation for her role in Montgomery's schemes, withdrew her legal challenge and disappeared to her estate in Switzerland. "We won," Sam said, reading the news on his tablet. "We actually won." "We survived," Jack corrected. "Winning is getting to be a normal family now." But normal was relative. Their family had grown to encompass so much more than just their household. Amy and Lucy were permanent fixtures. Marcus was there every other weekend. The mechanics and their families had become extended clan. Even Agent Kim had become oddly attached, stopping by occasionally to check on them, always claiming it was routine follow-up, but usually staying for dinner. One evening, as Autumn returned to Millbrook, they held a celebration at the garage, 1 year since the adoption, 6 months since Christopher's birth, and the announcement that the foundation had cleared $1 million in medical debt for Texas families. "Speech," Miguel called out, pushing Jack forward. Jack looked at the gathered crowd, his family, his friends, his community. He thought about that night 2 years ago, when a desperate woman and her son had hidden by his garage, how he'd made a choice that changed everything. "I'm not good at speeches," he began, which earned him a laugh because everyone knew he hated public speaking. "But Sarah, my first wife, used to say that life isn't about the big moments, it's about the small choices that lead to them. 2 years ago, I made a choice to help 2 strangers. That choice led to more choices, and those choices led us here." He looked at Evelyn, radiant, as she held Christopher, at Sam and Emma playing with Lucy, at Marcus, deep in conversation with Amy about sustainable energy, at the community that had rallied around them. "We're not a normal family," Jack continued. "We're mechanics and billionaires, orphans and bonus uncles, survivors and supporters. We're people who chose each other when the world tried to tear us apart. And that choice, that's what makes us family." "To family," Miguel called out, raising his beer. "To family," the crowd echoed. As the party continued around them, Evelyn found Jack on the garage roof, his thinking spot. She'd learned where he went when he needed perspective. "Hey," she said carefully, climbing up despite his protests. "You okay?" "Just thinking about Sarah," he admitted. "Wondering what she'd think of all this." "I think she'd be proud," Evelyn said, settling beside him. "You saved us, Jack. Sam and me, but also Amy and Lucy, and in a way Marcus too. You gave us all a second chance at family." "You saved us too," Jack said. "Emma and me. We were surviving, but we weren't living. Not really. You brought us back to life." Below them, they could hear their children laughing, all 3 of them now, Christopher's baby giggles mixing with Sam and Emma's voices. The sound of their bonus family, their chosen tribe, their unlikely happily ever after. "I love you," Evelyn said, leaning against his shoulder. "I love this life we've built. Even with the garage smell and the small-town gossip and Tom Bradley's security patrols. Especially with all that, she laughed. "It's real. It's ours. It's perfect." As the sun set over Millbrook, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Jack pulled his wife closer and thought about the strange journey that had brought them here. From that stormy night when she'd been Elena, frightened and running, to this moment when she was simply Evelyn Morrison, mother, wife, partner, friend. They'd started as strangers brought together by desperation. They'd become family through choice and determination. And now, as their children played below and their community celebrated around them, They were something more proof that love could triumph over money, that chosen families were just as real as blood, and that sometimes the best things in life came from the worst circumstances. "Hey, Mom, Dad," Emma's voice called up. "Uncle Marcus says he'll buy us all ice cream if you come down." "Bribery," Jack called back. "That's a Hamilton trait." "Strategic negotiation," Marcus corrected from below. "And it's a Morrison trait too, I've learned." As they climbed down to join their family, Evelyn paused, looking back at the garage where it had all begun. The place where she'd found safety was now the place where others found hope. The Hamilton name, once synonymous with greed and power, now stood for generosity and community. And the Morrison name had grown to encompass so much more than Jack had ever imagined. "No regrets?" Jack asked, seeing her thoughtful expression. "No regrets," Evelyn confirmed. "Only gratitude." They walked hand in hand back to their family, their bonus, beautiful family, ready for whatever came next. Because they'd learned the most important lesson of all: together, they could survive anything. Together, they were home.